Chapter 1. Invincible after 100 years of seclusion. Chuzan's words and actions are improper and harmful to the family's reputation. His punishment is to immediately leave the ancestral residence. Without permission, he is not allowed even step half a foot into the ancestral residence. Chuzan turned his head to look at the magnificent ancestral residence and helplessly shook his head. Being punished to leave the ancestral residence was equivalent to being expelled from the direct line of descent. When a person was hated, even a sneeze was a mistake and unforgivable. He had just transmigrated here when the Chu family was hosting a banquet for the distinguished guests from the imperial capital. As one of the direct descendants, Chuzan was naturally present. Just because he sneezed, he was expelled from the ancestral residence. Although he was not explicitly expelled from the family tree, in practice, there was no difference. The butler brought him to a desolate courtyard far away from the ancestral residence. 13th young master, you can stay here from now on. I will arrange for someone to send food over. The butler left after he finished speaking. Chuzan was a direct descendant of the Chu family, one of the three great families in the state of Qin. He was ranked 13th and was the most disliked person among the younger generation of the Chu family. He pushed open the door to the courtyard. The courtyard was overgrown with weeds, so it was obvious that no one had lived there for a long time. This courtyard was far from the ancestral home and was located at the edge of the Chu family's land. Naturally, no one would come to live in this remote place. Chuzan sighed. Due to his parents' influence, he had always been disliked by the master of the family, Chu Tianming, who was also his grandfather. His father was Chu Tianming's third son. He had always been doted on and had been the most outstanding talent in his father's generation. However, his father had broken the marriage contract prepared by Chu Tianming and married Chuzan's mother, a woman with no deep background. Chu Tianming was almost angered to death by this. 3 years ago, Chuzan's parents had left home without a trace. From then on, Chuzan's situation became even worse. His grandfather, Chu Tianming, would become annoyed every time he saw him. Finally, today, he could no longer hold it in anymore. Adopting the mentality of what he could not see could not trouble him, he eventually chased Chuzan out of the ancestral home. It was the melodramatic drama of an aristocratic family. Chuzan was speechless. However, he couldn't change anything. It was already good enough that he still had a place to stay. At least he would not have to worry about food and clothing. Looking at the weeds in the yard, Chuzan was troubled. He was the young master of an aristocratic family after all. Should he personally remove the weeds? Fortunately, he was not troubled for long. The 2 servants of the Chu family were arranged by the butler to clean up the yard of the house. Thus, they removed the weeds and cleaned up the place. They also replaced the furniture and prepared daily necessities. Chuzan finally felt a little bit of satisfaction as a young master of an aristocratic family. He ordered the servants to bring him a deck chair and some books. From now on, he would stay here. After the servants left, Chuzan lay on the deck chair and breathed in the sweet air. He looked at the blue sky and white clouds with a bit of confusion in his eyes. He had traveled through time. His situation was not good, but it was not too bad either. At the very least, he did not have to worry about food and clothing for the time being. However, this was a world where one could cultivate to the spirit level and warriors could move mountains and overturn seas. As a weak little dreg of society, it was difficult to say that he felt safe. The next day, Chu Yong lay on the recliner and flipped through a book. Other than him, there was no one else in the courtyard. After the servants delivered the food, they packed up and left. They did not even speak 2 sentences throughout the whole process. He did not even have a maid. Chuzan sighed. As expected, he was not welcomed. Even as the young master of an aristocratic family, he did not have a maid to serve him. The stronger the house, the more powerful the system is, binding the current place of residence to the territory of the house. You have stayed in the house for 1 day. The reward is the indestructible Vajra divine art. Suddenly, a voice sounded in his mind. Chuzan's spirits were lifted and he sat straight up. System. A blurry space appeared in his mind and a system message was transmitted over. The stronger the system, the stronger he would become. Every day, he would receive a reward for staying in the house. The method of which he stayed in the house would differ, thereby leading to random rewards. As long as one did not leave the courtyard and only stayed in the house and courtyard, the longer one stayed in the house, the greater the reward would be and the stronger he would become. However, once one left the courtyard, the records would be reset and the score would have to be recalculated. Chuzon's mood immediately brightened. Maids aren't important. I just like to stay in the house. It's good to stay in the house. There's no danger to my safety here. He immediately received the reward. A stream of information surged into his mind, and a wave of energy circulated around his body. His skin also started faintly flashing with a golden glow. Chuzon felt his strength continuously increasing. At the same time, he silently circulated the Vajra indestructible divine art. Clenching his fist, his strength soared. This was especially true for his defensive strength, which reached the peak of the mortal realm. The Vajra indestructible divine art technique was a top defensive technique of the mortal realm. Even so, this world, it was not considered extremely powerful. Above the mortal realm were the profound realm, spirit realm, void realm, unity realm, true realm, emperor realm, and so on. The mortal realm was just the most basic realm. It was also divided into 3 cultivation stages: body refining, meridian opening, and chi gathering. Only by breaking through the mortal gate and stepping into the profound realm could one truly begin their path of cultivation. After the profound realm, each realm was divided into 9 levels. No matter how strong the mortal realm was, without breaking through the mortal gate, one would still only ever be immortal. However, Chuzon was not disappointed. After all, this was only a reward for staying indoors for a day. Before he received the reward, his strength was only at the meridian opening stage within the mortal realm. He was considered trash. Now that he had reached the peak of the mortal realm, it was almost impossible for anyone to hurt him, particularly if they themselves were still in the mortal realm. Chuzon was satisfied, and he made up his mind to stay indoors. Stretching his waist, Chuzon changed his posture and lay back on the recliner. He picked up the book and continued reading. He let out a long breath and felt refreshed. Comfortable. After receiving the cheat, he was full of energy, and his previous annoyance was gone. You changed your posture and stayed comfortably at home. You were rewarded with a box of chi-gathering pills. There was a reward for this. Chuzon became even more energetic. He took out the chi-gathering pills that the system had rewarded him with and found that there was a whole box. The box was made of wood, and there were hundreds of bottles of pills inside, with each bottle containing 12 pills. Chuzon took out a bottle of pills and put the rest back into the system's face. He poured out a pill. It was brown and lustrous, and a faint medicinal fragrance lingered around it. He could vaguely sense the spiritual essence contained in the pill. It was definitely a top-grade pill, as expected of a product of the system. Chuzon put the pill into his mouth. The pill dissolved and turned into a stream of pure spiritual energy that entered his body and gathered in his Dantian 1, along his meridians. The last stage of cultivation in the mortal realm was the gathering of chi. When the gathering of chi was full and circulated around one's body, it meant that one had cultivated to the peak of mortal realm. If one wanted to take another step forward, the only way was to break through the mortal gate, sublimate to the extremes, shed the mortal state, and step into the profound realm. The mortal gate was hard to break, and countless people normally stopped there. If one was unable to break through the mortal gate, they would eventually become immortal. Chuzon took a chi-gathering pill and felt the spiritual energy fill his dantian. It circulated around his meridians, and his body faintly glowed with a golden light. After obtaining the Vajra indestructible divine art, he managed to break through, from opening his meridians to chi-gathering. With a chi-gathering pill, he was able to gather his chi to perfection and stabilize his cultivation to reach the mortal peak. However, this was not something that could be solved simply by eating a chi-gathering pill. The only way was to break through the mortal gate and open the door of mystery. Chuzon was not in a hurry. He suspected that after a few days, he might be able to break through the gateway. Chapter 2. Dragon Python Spirit Fist in 1 year's cultivation. Chuzon spent most of the day lying on the recliner, reading. He changed several positions but did not receive any system rewards. It seemed that changing a few comfortable positions would not be enough to trigger the system's random rewards. In the evening, the person who came to deliver the food was not a servant. Instead, it was a beautiful woman wearing a green dress. It was her cousin, Chu-yun. Chu-yun was the favored daughter of the direct line of descent. Her talent was outstanding. At such a young age, she had already reached the peak of mortal realm. Moreover, she had already touched the barrier of the mortal gate and was about to break through it and enter the profound realm. "Why are you here?" Chuzon asked in surprise. Chu-yun put down the lunchbox and placed the dishes on the table. She looked up at Chuzon and felt that he seemed to have changed. As she had not yet stepped into the profound realm, and since Chuzan did not reveal his strength, she could not see Chuzan's actual strength. 13th brother, you have to bear with it for a while. When Grandpa's anger subsides, I'll go and beg Grandpa to let you return to the ancestral residence. Among the brothers and sisters of this generation, Chuyun and Chuzan were the closest. There's no need. I'm living very well here. It'll be annoying if I go back. There's no need. Chuzan waved his hand and refused. Not only did he not plan to go back to the ancestral residence, he did not even plan to step out of the courtyard door. He liked to stay at home. 13th brother, I'll go and beg grandfather. He'll definitely agree. He won't be angry with me. Don't worry. Chuyun thought that Chuzan was afraid that she would implicate him if she begged, and that was why he refused. There's really no need. Chuzan looked at Chuyun's determined gaze and was touched. In this world, other than his parents, there were still people who cared about him. Of course, he knew that after a few days, his cheap grandfather Chu Tianming's anger would subside. If Chuyun went to plead for mercy, there was a high chance that he would let him go back. After all, Chuyun was the chosen one among the grandchildren. She was deeply loved by Chu Tianming and would not be angry with her over such a small matter. However, he really did not want to leave. This place was remote and quiet. It was so comfortable to stay at home. When he returned to the ancestral residence, others would be annoyed by his presence. They would definitely harass him from time to time. Chuyun sat down and ate with Chuzan. After chatting for a while, she went back. Before leaving the courtyard, Chuyun promised repeatedly that she would plead with Chu Tianming to let him go back to the ancestral residence. However, it was impossible for him to go back right now, so just stayed here and did not leave. Chuzan lay on the recliner, his posture relaxed. You've been staying here for 2 days. Reward: Dragon Python Spirit Fist. The system's voice sounded, and Chuzan immediately received the reward. A stream of information simultaneously also surged into his mind. In his mind, the dragon python appeared. Its aura was like a rainbow, and its fist seemed to have a spirit. In a short period of time, he had already grasped the dragon python spirit fist. This was an attack technique that stood at the top of the spirit realm. Unfortunately, Chuzan was limited by his realm and was unable to unleash its power. The dragon python spirit fist was divided into the python form and the dragon form. Once one had cultivated to the point of turning a python and into a dragon, one would be able to grasp its essence. Chuzan performed the dragon python spirit fist in the courtyard. His fist was like a giant python. It was agile, swift, and violent. At this moment, Chuzan felt that with the defense of the Vajra indestructible divine technique and the swift and violent attack of the dragon python spirit fist, it would be easy for one to fight against 10 martial artists who were also at the peak of the mortal realm. Chuzan immediately mastered the cultivation technique that the system rewarded him with. If his realm was high enough, he could use the dragon form. However, if he wanted to use the dragon form, he would need to be at least at the 7th level of the profound realm. Furthermore, if he wanted to fully display the power of the dragon python spirit fist, he would need to be in the spirit realm. The dragon python spirit fist was definitely one of the top techniques in the Chu family's scripture pavilion. Chuzan felt that he should be able to break through to the profound realm after staying indoors for another 2 or 3 days. On the 3rd day of staying indoors, the reward was a dagger. Phantom dagger. The dagger had the ability to confuse people's minds. If one were to look at the dagger, it would appear as if they could see layers upon layers of daggers, making it impossible to distinguish which one was the real dagger. If it was used in an attack, it would conjure countless daggers to confuse the enemy. It could be considered a pretty good weapon. On the 4th day, Chuzan was still lying on the recliner reading. He felt that since he had decided to stay in the courtyard and not go out, he had to adjust his state of mind and not get agitated. Reading was undoubtedly a good way to calm his mind and ensure he was not affected by external matters. He was reading strange books. What was recorded in the books were the strange stories of the southern region, including some historical events. For example, it documented the changes of the 9 countries of the southern region. It recorded which dynasties had perished and which dynasties had risen over the years. The Qin kingdom was one of the 9 countries of the southern region. The Qin kingdom had once been a strong dynasty. In the end, it had perished under the joint efforts of the Qin, Chu, He, and Zhao families. That was how the current Qin kingdom came into being. The Qin family was the most powerful and was the current royal family of the Sqin kingdom. The Chu, He, and Zhao families were the three major aristocratic families of the Qin kingdom. Among the 9 countries of the southern region, only the Qin kingdom belonged to a dynasty where the 4 families ruled together. The Qin family did not have the power to completely unify the other 3 major aristocratic families. On top of that, due to the relationship between their ancestors and the marriage between generations, it was difficult to separate them. Besides, with a common enemy, civil strife would only lead to destruction. Thus, no matter how ambitious the royal family of Qin was, they could only accept the fact that the 4 families ruled together, while the Qin family was the boss. You stayed indoors for 4 days and were rewarded with a year's worth of cultivation. The reward for the 4th day soon arrived and Chu Zan's spirit was roused. A year's worth of cultivation. After receiving a year's worth of cultivation, he was about to break through to the profound realm. He immediately received the reward. He only felt a surge of power emerge. His strength increased instantly as if he had broken off some kind of shackle. However, he did not break through to the profound realm. His essence, chi, and spirit only had a feeling of sublimation. It was as if the next step would cause him to undergo an earth-shattering transformation. This was especially true for his spiritual will, which could become corporeal. Chu Zan carefully perceived the changes in his body. The reward of a year of cultivation did not help him break through to the profound realm. However, it truly pushed his realm to the limits of the mortal realm. He had a feeling that once he broke through to the profound realm, his strength and foundation would far surpass that of ordinary profound realm martial artists. It was because he had already reached the peak of mortal realm and was unable to advance any further. He had made another small breakthrough and had truly reached the peak of the mortal realm. Half-step profound realm. Chu Zan didn't know if his current realm could be called the half-step profound realm. What he knew was that his current strength had already surpassed the peak of mortal realm by quite a bit. Normally speaking, once one reached the peak of mortal realm, they would not be able to advance any further. They would have to comprehend the mortal gate, touch the barrier of the mortal gate, and finally break through the gate and step into the profound realm. Only then would they be able to continue growing stronger. However, Chu Zan had never heard of such a state where one could advance one step further and reach the pinnacle of mortal realm. He was born in the Chu family, and even with the Chu family's background, there were no records of such a state. Chu Zan felt that such a state was extremely rare, which was why the Chu family did not have any records of it. Of course, there was another possibility. There were still too few books in the Chu family's possession, which was why he had not seen any records of such a state just yet. At this moment, the true profound realm was in sight. Chapter 3. Sublimation, breaking through to the profound realm. You've been cooped up for 5 days. The reward is 1 box of Great Profound Pills. Here it comes. The Great Profound Pill was not only a pill for breaking through to the profound gate, it was also a pill required for the cultivation of the profound realm. The system was generous. It directly rewarded 1 box instead of 1 or 2 bottles of such petty things. Chu Zan took out a bottle of pills and poured out a single pill. He sat cross-legged in the room and put the pill into his mouth. This was for breaking through to the profound realm. The pill melted as soon as it entered his mouth. There was a rumbling sound, and Chu Zan felt that his body was undergoing some kind of metamorphosis, and he felt as if he was floating in the air. The spiritual energy in his body was also continuously compressed, and the spiritual energy of heaven and earth continuously gushed into him. Gradually, the spiritual energy became corporeal and began to glow faintly. His spiritual energy was also undergoing a metamorphosis, and it was being refined into spiritual energy. Only 100 portions of spiritual energy could be refined into 1 portion of spiritual energy, after which the amount of power one could control would increase by 100-fold. However, an even greater transformation took place in one's mental will. The greatest barrier between the mortal gate and the profound gate was not the transformation of one's physical body or spiritual energy, but the transformation of one's mental will. This stage of transformation was core to the process. It was also the greatest barrier to breaking through to the profound realm. Chu Zan felt that there seemed to be a shackle attached to his spiritual will. After breaking the shackle, a door appeared. The tightly shut door was loosening at this moment. Once he pushed open this door, he would step into a new world. The true barrier of the entrance. Chu Zan knew that as long as he pushed open this door, his spiritual will would be able to complete the sublimation. He would be able to sense it within his body, and he would be able to comprehend the profoundness of this world. This door was a door of profoundness. He needed to push open the door of profoundness and enter a new world. This door was not only the natural chasm and barrier between the mortal and profound world, but it was also a test. If he did not break through the mortal gate, he would only ever be immortal. If he remained like this, he would only ever end up as a pile of yellow soil. The peak masters of the mortal realm did not have a lifespan of more than 150 years. On the other hand, once one entered the profound realm, their lifespan would increase by 500 years. Those who cultivated special techniques could even enjoy a lifespan of 800 years. Chuzan was bombarding this door. Every time he bombarded it, his spiritual will would sublimate, and the gap between the doors would grow bigger. After 9 consecutive bombardments, there was a boom, and doors suddenly collapsed. In an instant, Chuzan felt as if he had entered a new world. His spiritual will was sublimating, rapidly undergoing some kind of transformation. At a certain moment, he could see himself sitting cross-legged, everything in the house, and even the ants crawling on the ground in the courtyard. At this moment, the world became clear. He could even sense the spiritual chi fluctuations between the heavens and earth. He had successfully reached the profound realm. Even with his eyes closed, he could see everything around him even more clearly than before he broke through. Will perception. This ability was only available after breaking through to the profound realm. Mental will could be sensed away from the body. The stronger one was, the farther one's will perception could reach. Chuzan took out another great profound pill and swallowed it, consolidating his cultivation after breaking through. You've broken through while you were still cooped up. The bewitching technique is your reward. The system's voice sounded, and Chuzan was instantly overjoyed. There was even a reward for breaking through. Not bad, not bad. He just did not know if there would be a reward for every breakthrough. After receiving the bewitching technique, a small gray booklet appeared. Chuzan opened the booklet, and mysterious characters jumped out of the booklet and entered his eyes. Waves of profound comprehension appeared in his mind. Half an hour later, Chuzan finished comprehending the bewitching technique. This was a type of secret technique that could cause hallucinations in one's mental will, disrupt one's mental will, and even disrupt one's soul. At the same time, cultivating the bewitching technique also had the effect of strengthening one's mental will and soul. The soul was still far away from Chuzan, and it was not so easy to condense. It would take another sublimation and transformation of one's mental will before it could be condensed into a soul. Chuzan consolidated his realm while practicing the bewitching technique. As he had directly comprehended the bewitching technique, it was easy for him to cultivate it. Thus, he spent more than an hour to get started on it. After finishing his cultivation, Chuzan went to the courtyard and performed the dragon python spirit fist again. After breaking through to the profound realm, the power of the dragon python spirit fist was no longer comparable to before. As he threw out a punch, his spiritual power surged and turned into a gray python that rapidly lunged out. Chuzan threw out punch after punch. The gray python bit, pounced, and struck out rapidly, but no matter what it did, it never lacked flexibility. After practicing the dragon python spirit fist, Chuzan tested the bewitching technique again, and invisible waves rippled out. The bewitching technique directly attacked a person's mental will. It could make a person start hallucinating, and it could even force the bewitched person to act according to the user's will. Casting the bewitching technique consumed one's mental will. Even without directly comparing himself to other profound realm martial artists, Chuzan felt that his mental will was much stronger than other martial artists who were also at the first stage of the profound realm. He wondered if the system would ever reward medicinal pills or spiritual items that could increase mental will. If there was a cultivation method that focused on mental will, then it would be the best thing for him to work on. A cultivation method to cultivate one's mind and will was extremely rare and difficult to come by. Even the Chu family only had one low-grade profound realm level cultivation method to cultivate one's mind and will. Despite only having one, the Chu family stood tall in the Qin kingdom because of the addition of this single cultivation method. This technique was the core cultivation method of the Chu family. Chuzan was only at the mortal realm meridian opening stage. Even the direct descendants had never seen this cultivation method before. After breaking through to the profound realm, Chuzan now needed a cultivation method. After the Vajra indestructible divine art reached the profound realm, there was no longer a need to cultivate it. The cultivation method of the Chu family that he cultivated was only somewhere between the mortal realm to the first level of the profound realm. Every junior of the Chu family could only receive the follow-up cultivation method after breaking through to the profound realm. Even so, Chuzan did not plan to continue cultivating the Chu family's cultivation method. He wanted to wait for one of the system's cultivation methods, which it would undoubtedly eventually issue as a reward. Although the Chu family was one of the 3 great families in the Qin kingdom and appeared very powerful, it was actually quite ordinary in the southern region. The cultivation method practiced by the direct line of descent in the Chu family was only the high-grade mysterious sutras. Cultivation methods below the void realm were known as mysterious sutras. They were divided into high grade, middle grade, and low grade. After the void realm, there was the unity realm, true realm, and emperor realm. Cultivation techniques below the true realm were called true scriptures. Although the individual strength of each technique varied, there were no specific power levels attached to them. Above the true scriptures was the emperor's scriptures. Chu Zan felt that at minimum, she should to cultivate the emperor's scriptures. After just a few days, Chu Zan did not have high hopes for a higher level cultivation technique. It was rumored among the direct descendants of the Chu family that Chu Tianming had half of the true scripture. The ultimate goal of all the direct descendants was to have the opportunity to cultivate this half of the scripture. The entire Chu family only cultivated this half of the true scripture with 2 palms. It was the true core of the Chu family. However, Chu Zan was not interested in this half of the true scripture right now. If he only had half of it, he was afraid that he would die before he could cultivate to the unity realm. Lying on the recliner, Chu Zan continued to read. Although he had only just broken through, his realm was already quite stable. If he wanted to stay at home for a long time, he had to be stable. Therefore, Chu Zan made up his mind to read more. Firstly, he wanted to pass the time, and secondly, he wanted to broaden his horizons. After all, the Chu family was not a weak aristocratic family. They had a lot of books. After reading all the books, he should be able to broaden his understanding of this world. Currently, Chu Zan only had a relatively good understanding of the Qin kingdom. The Qin kingdom was located in the southern province, so he did not know much about it, let alone outside of the province. There were many books that the Chu family had collected that the servants could not bring over, so when Chu Yun came again, Chu Zan had to ask for her help. She had to make a copy of the many books collected by the Chu family for him. As he was reading, she suddenly sensed a servant carrying a lunchbox outside in the courtyard. P.S. Collect, ask for tickets, ask for everything, ####. Chapter 4, Cultist Spies. It was not time to eat yet. The servants delivered food at a fixed time, and when the time came, 2 servants always came together. The butler had arranged specifically for these servants, and unless there was a unique situation, there would not be a change of staff. Chu Zan could see through his will perception that the servant who was delivering the food that day was a new person. In Chu Zan's will perception, there seemed to be something wrong with this servant. Chu Zan frowned slightly. Could it be that someone from the Chu family was targeting him? There was no reason for this. He was not favored by Chu Tianming in the direct line of descent of the Chu family, and his uncles had never targeted him before this. As for his peers, he had already been expelled from the ancestral residence and marginalized. Therefore, there was no reason for anyone to target him. Although the Chu family was a large aristocratic family, the fights between the direct line of descent were not too intense. Chu Zan saw the servant come in and start to place food on the table. He used his will to scan the food on the table and found that there were a few small insect eggs mixed inside the food. If he had not broken through to the profound realm, he definitely would not have detected the insect eggs mixed in with the food. The eggs of the poisonous GU. He used his will to determine that it was just an ordinary poisonous goose eggs. This was not a threat to Chu Zan, who was now at the profound realm. The other party did not want to kill him, but instead wanted to control him. 13th Young Master, it's time to eat. After the servant placed the food, he lowered his head and retreated to the side. Chu Zan was still lying on the recliner. He looked at the servant and said, "This young master is very curious about something. Who asked you to come today?" The servant was stunned and looked at Chu Zan. It was the order of the head butler. The head butler was the one who brought Chu Zan here. He was Chu Tianming's confidant as well as the head butler of the Chu family's ancestral residence. Chu Zan decided to try the bewitching technique on this servant. A servant who had just reached the Qi gathering stage of the mortal realm would definitely not be able to resist the control of the bewitching technique. With that, Chu Zan immediately gathered his spiritual will and cast the bewitching technique. Moments later, an invisible wave invaded the servant's will. In just an instant, the servant no longer even had the strength to resist as his eyes became dull. "Tell me, who are you? Who asked you to come here?" A cold light flashed in Chuzan's eyes. No matter who had ordered the servant, anyone who dared to harm him would not be forgiven. Chuzan was not strong enough, so he had to endure it for now. However, once he was strong enough, he would kill the perpetrator immediately. I'm a cultist. No one asked me to come here. I just saw an opportunity to control you and gain the favor of the heretic elders. That is why I came here. The cultist sect was the most chaotic factor in the Qin kingdom, and the force behind it was the evil imperial court. The evil imperial court was a very special country in the southern region. Everyone in its territory practiced evil arts, and not many laws were enforced within the country. Every day, evil cultivators would fight and devour each other in order to become stronger. The evil imperial court had the smallest population of any neighboring country, but it was extremely powerful, and it constantly watched its neighbors like a tiger eyeing its prey. This was especially true when it firmly controlled the lineage of the evil king of the evil imperial court. The king's strength was beyond imagination. Otherwise, how could he rule over all the evil cultivators in the region? There were evil cults in the 8 countries that made up the southern region. The cults were either formed by evil cultivators from the evil imperial court itself or were evil cultivators cultivated by the evil imperial court within each respective territory. The cultists were secretive and were extremely good at remaining in hiding as well as killing. They were the most unstable factor within the borders of each country. Cultists did not call themselves saints like certain factions did. Rather, they referred to themselves as cultists. Cults consisted of a group of people who practiced evil techniques. They knew that they were all evil people, so they never bothered labeling themselves saints. When Chuzan heard that the servant was actually a cultist, he was shocked. Was he being targeted by a cult? No, only this cultist should be targeting him for the time being. The Chu family had actually been infiltrated by a cultist spy. Could it be that the cult was going to launch an attack on the Chu family? If it was just a cult, the Chu family's strength was enough to deal with it. What Chuzan was worried about was that the evil imperial court was specifically targeting the Chu family, or possibly even the Qin kingdom, and was preparing to launch an attack on them. At this stage, he could not allow anything to the Chu family. If something happened to the Chu family, how could he stay at home and become stronger? He did not know how many evil cult spies had infiltrated the Chu family. Hence, he had to remind his chief grandfather, Chu Tianming, to thoroughly investigate the Chu family and find out about the hidden spies. After the interrogation, Chuzan let out a sigh of relief. This operation had been made by this evil cult disciple on his own initiative. He saw an opportunity to control Chuzan, a direct descendant of the Chu family, so he was prepared to secretly control himself and claim credit from the cultist elders. However, Chuzan realized that since this cultist felt that there was now an opportunity to gain control over a direct descendant of the Chu family, then the other cultists would definitely feel the same. If there were indeed cultists from the Dark Realm lurking within the Chu family, it would be troublesome if they all started targeting him. Therefore, in order for him to stay safe and comfortable, he had to make the Chu family thoroughly investigate the matter relating to the hidden spies. He had to inform his chief grandfather, Chu Tianming. Even so, how could he inform him? Chuzan did not want to expose his true strength. He did not plan to take even half a step outside his courtyard. Moreover, he had to conceal his strength in order to reduce the enemy's attention on him. Until he was strong enough, he had to protect himself and stay alive. As he thought of this, Chuzan's emotions fluctuated, and the bewitching technique shook. After all, it was his first time using the bewitching technique, and he did not manage to control his strength well. This ended up in him destroying a small part of the servant's will. As such, it was impossible for Chuzan to hand over the spy to Chu Tianming now. Otherwise, he would definitely know that a small part of the spy's will had been destroyed. Chuzan's strength would be drawn into question, and his true strength would be discovered. His grandfather might even wonder if he had hidden his strength for other reasons. A small part of the spy's spiritual will had been destroyed. For a man who had just reached the Qi gathering stage, it was an extremely serious injury. He might even become retarded. Even if he did not become a retard, his mind would still be in chaos and his emotions would be out of control. If Chuzan did not want others to find out that the spy's will had been severely damaged, he could only kill him. If he was killed, it would be impossible to find out that his will had been severely damaged when he was still alive. After all, he was only at the mortal realm. There would not be any trace of his will after he died. After Chuzan lost control and destroyed a small part of the spy's will, his face contorted as if he had fallen into a state of chaos. Not long after, the two servants who were supposed to deliver the food arrived. Chuzan immediately released the cultist spy and pretended to have a big fight with the other party. The cult spy showed the strength of someone who had only just entered the chi gathering stage, while Chuzan also displayed an equal amount of strength to match him. Moreover, he showed that he had just broken through not long ago and that his strength was not even equal to that of the cultist spy, making it appear as if he were pathetically defending himself. This was the only way to stay true to his character. He was the scum of the direct line of descent. Such impudence! How dare you attack the 13th young master? The servant delivering the food heard the sound of battle and quickly rushed over. When he saw Chuzan dodge the attacks in a sorry state, he was immediately shocked. No matter how marginalized Chuzan was, he was still part of the direct line of descent of the Chu family. He was not someone that servants like them could offend. There was actually a servant who attacked a member of the direct line of descent of the Chu family. This was a huge crime. A cultist. When he saw that the servant was actually using an evil technique, he was immediately shocked. Chapter 5. The Great Emperor's Scripture. The two servants were both at the chi gathering stage. They quickly put down the lunchbox and rushed forward to save Chuzan. They both realized that this servant was a cultist spy. As long as they caught this spy, they would be considered to have completed a meritorious deed. If they completed such a great meritorious deed, they would definitely be rewarded handsomely. They might even get the opportunity to obtain resources and break through to the profound realm. Most of the servants from the Chu family were at the mortal realm. Once they broke through to the profound realm, they would become a steward of the Chu family. Regardless of whether they were sent to various places in the county or stayed in the Chu family residence, their status would surely improve. Kill him now. Chuzan was flustered and exasperated. A servant dares to attack me. Kill him now. The two servants worked together and quickly captured the cultist. Chuzan took the opportunity to attack and roared, "You dare to attack this young master? Die. 13th young master, you can't kill him." The two servants felt their heads ache. This was a spy. It was more useful to keep him alive. How could they just kill him? This person was indeed a scumbag among the direct descendants. However, by now, Chuzan had already punched the spy's throat. With a crack, the spy's eyes widened and blood gushed out from his mouth. In a short while, he died. The two servants were helpless. After killing the spy, Chuzan's face turned pale and he turned around to pretend to vomit. 13th young master, this man was a spy from the cult. We have to report this to the head butler. The two servants did not know what to say. 13th young master was really trash. After killing a spy, he could not even stand the smell of blood and began vomiting. Chuzan waved his hand and told the two servants to scram. The servants carried the spy's body and left while Chuzan returned to the recliner and lay down. He thought about his performance just now. He should have appeared trashy enough, right? In this way, Chu Tianming would become even more annoyed with him. He would be completely marginalized and there would be no longer any possibility of him returning to the core of the direct line of descent, so he was no longer useful to the family. Even if there were still spies lurking around after the Chu family's upcoming investigation, they would not take the risk to attack a useless member of the direct line of descent like him, right? Over the next period, he should be able to peacefully stay at home. You killed the cultist who invaded your house. You will be rewarded with a box of spirit-nourishing pills. The system's voice sounded. The system's random reward was finally triggered again. Chuzan received the spirit-nourishing pills. This was a type of pill that nourished one's spirit and will. Not only was it effective at the profound realm, but even after breaking through to the spirit realm, it would still be useful to nourish and strengthen one's spirit and will. The medicinal pill produced by the system was extraordinary. It was effective in both realms. He immediately took out a bottle and poured out a spirit-nourishing pill to consume. The medicinal pill dissolved, and a refreshing medicinal power surged into his mind. In just an instant, Chuzan felt that his spirit was refreshed, and his will's perception of heaven and earth became clearer. Lying on the recliner, he silently refined the medicinal pill. He felt the range of his will's perception slowly increase, and his spirit and will continued to strengthen under the nourishment of the medicinal pill. In the Chu family's ancestral residence, in the meeting hall, Chu Tianming was about to go crazy from anger. Trash, trash, what kind of son did Luor give birth to? How can he be such trash? How could he disgrace our Chu family like this? In the meeting hall, the other members of the Chu family maintained their silence. They waited for Chu Tianming to vent his anger before continuing with the discussion. Luo'er's talent is outstanding, yet he gave birth to such a trash son. It's all because of that woman. Otherwise, how could my Luo'er give birth to such a trash son? The others continued to remain silent. The third son with outstanding talent actually gave birth to such a useless son. It was all Chu Zan's mother's fault. Chu Tianming was really about to explode in anger. There was a cultist spy among the servants of the Chu family. They had already captured him alive, but in the end, Chu Zan actually killed the spy. Although he was angry after killing the spy, what really made him mad was that after Chu Zan killed the spy, he actually could not even stand the bloody scene and vomited. He was simply too useless. How could such a useless person achieve great things in the future? This was the reason why he was mad. At this moment, Chu Tianming was considering whether he should force his precious granddaughter, Chu Yun, to stay away from Chu Zan. What if Chu Zan's useless character was contagious? If his granddaughter was infected by him and turned into a useless person, it would be a huge loss. Chu Tianming cursed for a long while before he panted and sat down on the main seat. When he saw the young man sitting in the last row of the meeting hall, his expression eased up. He rejoiced in his heart that not all of his grandchildren were good-for-nothings like Chu Zan. In the end, there was still a junior with outstanding talent. For example, Chu Qing, his eldest grandson who had participated in the meeting, was already at the 4th level of the profound stage at a young age and was about to break through to the 5th level. Not only was his cultivation talent outstanding, but his method of handling matters was also very shrewd and mature. He had even surpassed many of the older generation in this aspect. This time, he had allowed Chu Qing to participate in the investigation of the spy in order to nurture him. Chu Tianming was already treating him as the future heir of the Chu family, and was grooming him appropriately. Among his sons, the third son that he had the highest hopes for had violated his engagement and nearly angered him to death. Moreover, he had gone missing and could not be found. Therefore, Chu Tianming decided to look among the next generation. He decided he would select and nurture his successor from among his grandchildren. Chu Zan was depressed. The emperor's scripture reward that he had expected did not appear. Perhaps it was because he had not stayed indoors for long enough. However, he was not in a hurry. While eating the spirit-nourishing pill to strengthen his will, he also ate the great profound pill to strengthen his spiritual power. His strength continued to increase, and he soon reached the peak of the first stage of the profound realm. 10 days. After staying in the courtyard for 10 days, the emperor's scripture cultivation technique that he had been looking forward to finally appeared. You've stayed in the courtyard for 10 days, the reward is the great emperor's scripture. An ancient and simple book appeared, faintly emitting a domineering pressure. Chu Zan was extremely excited. The emperor's scripture was a cultivation technique that pointed directly to the emperor realm. Just half of the true scripture could allow the Chu family to stand among the 3 great families of the Qin country for thousands of years. From this, one could see how precious and powerful the emperor's scripture was. Moreover, this was only the reward for staying indoors for 10 days. If one stayed indoors for a month or a year, what level of cultivation technique would they be rewarded with? Chu Zan flipped open the emperor's scripture, and one character after another jumped into his eyes. In his mind, scenes of cultivation comprehension regarding the emperor's scripture appeared one after another. An hour later, Chu Zan opened his eyes and stored the emperor's scripture in the system space after completely experiencing the comprehension of the emperor's scripture. As expected of the emperor's scripture, it was far from what the Chu family's upper-grade scripture could compare to. Chu Zan took out a great profound pill and consumed it to cultivate the profound realm cultivation technique of the great emperor's scripture. Originally, he had already reached the peak of the first level of the profound realm. With the cultivation of the great emperor's scripture, his foundation became even more solid, and his realm also slightly decreased. Although his realm had decreased a little bit, his strength had almost doubled. At this moment, when he used the Dragon Python Spirit Fist, the power was even greater, and his attacks were even more ferocious. A great profound pill was quickly refined, and he found that the speed of his refinement was more than 3 times faster than before he had cultivated the emperor's scripture. After a day, Chu Zan had recovered to the peak of the first level of the profound realm, and he was on the verge of breaking through to the second stage. The great profound pill was a top-grade profound realm medicinal pill. It did not have any side effects, and his cultivation increased rapidly. Moreover, Chu Zan had the system, so his cultivation level would not be unstable. He only needed to break through quickly, and he did not need to worry about his cultivation level being unstable. Chu Zan was considering a problem. The servant who delivered the food was not a profound realm martial artist, so he could not sense his cultivation level and strength. If the head butler or other profound stage martial artists came, his strength would be exposed. Once his strength was exposed, Chu Tianming would look at him again. He would even think that he was a genius and pay more attention to him. This was not the result that Chu Zan wanted. Therefore, what he needed now was treasures or cultivation techniques to conceal his cultivation level. This could only come from the system's reward. Chapter 6. Dust Assimilation Technique and Spirit Severing Saber. On the 11th day, Chu Zan's wish came true. You've been a shut-in for 11 days. Comprehending the true essence of being a shut-in is to keep a low profile. You'll now be rewarded with the dust assimilation technique. The dust assimilation technique was a secret technique. It was not just a secret technique that simply concealed one's aura and cultivation. Instead, it was a secret technique that could be used to become the same as the environment and everything in its surroundings. For example, if one stood in front of a tree, they would be perceived as that tree. If he stood together with rockery, he would be that rockery in his will perception. What was even more terrifying was that if he stood together with others, he would not appear in his will perception. Instead, he would be perceived as the person beside him, or perhaps the person beside him. Hiding his aura and concealing his cultivation was just a small trick. Chu Zan was pleasantly surprised. The dust assimilation technique was definitely not a secret technique at the level of the Emperor's scripture. Without any hesitation, he immediately started cultivating the dust assimilation technique. Due to the system's direct comprehension process, it was not too difficult to cultivate it. After spending half a day, the dust assimilation technique had reached the foundational stage. After entering the foundational stage, the dust assimilation technique was constantly in operation. His cultivation showed that he was in the early mortal realm and had entered the qi gathering stage. At this moment, Chu Zan, who was lying on the recliner, could only see the recliner if he used his will to sense, but he could not see himself. This was the power of the dust assimilation technique. After practicing the dust assimilation technique, Chu Zan's residence became more comfortable. As for the matter of the Chu family investigating the spies, he did not pay too much attention to it. From the mouth of the food delivery servant, he knew that the Chu family had organized a competition to select highly qualified servants to be specially trained. The food delivery servant was lucky enough to obtain a training spot. He could be seen that the other party was very excited by this. His eldest cousin, Chu Qing, was in charge of this conference. Chu Zan immediately understood that the Chu family was going to use this conference to pick out the hidden spies. They were even going to use the spies they captured to take down the hidden forces of the cult in Chu County. At the same time, Chu Tianming was also going to use this opportunity to train Chu Qing. Chu Zan did not care how the Chu family dealt with the cult, nor did he want to care. He just wanted to stay at home and slowly become stronger. As long as he became stronger, forget the cultist sect, even if the cultist king of the evil imperial court attacked, he would not need to worry. If the king angered him, he could just slap the king to death. The prerequisite for all of this was that he had to be strong enough. Thus, Chu Zan read books and cultivated at the same time. He did not waste any time. He ate several great profound pills and spirit-nurturing pills every day. His strength soon finally broke through to the second level of the profound realm. If news of this cultivation speed spread out, it would definitely scare the group of geniuses to death. Under the nourishment of the spirit-nurturing pills, his spiritual will grew rapidly. At the second stage of the profound realm, his spiritual will was already equal to the typical fourth stage profound realm. Chu Yun came once and brought many copies of books from the scripture pavilion for Chu Zan. Then, she went back to the ancestral residence to enter closed-door cultivation to break through to the profound realm. Chu Zan gave her 3 great profound pills and spirit-nourishing pills as a reward. Since he used the excuse that her father had left them behind, Chu Yun could not refuse. During this period, the system rewarded him with another box of great profound pills and spirit-nourishing pills. However, it did not give him any new cultivation techniques nor treasures related to the cultivation of mental will. Instead, it rewarded a saber technique, high-grade profound scripture, as well as a small secret technique. Other than the daily fixed reward, Chu Zan did not trigger the random reward. He had never understood the rules of the system's random reward. In other words, the random reward had no rules at all. Chu Yun went into seclusion for 3 days and successfully broke through to the profound realm. Her speed was beyond imagination. However, Chuzan knew that this was due to the effects of the Great Profound pills and the Spirit-nourishing pills. The rest of the Chu family did not know the specific situation. Thus, they were all amazed at Chu Yun's amazing talent. Chu Tianming was even happier. After breaking through to the profound realm, Chu Yun came to bid farewell to Chuzan. She wanted to leave the clan ground and go out to train. The direct descendants of the Chu family would only be allowed to leave the clan ground and go out to train after breaking through to the profound realm. Chuzan was very envious of this as had never left the clan ground before. Forget the Qin kingdom, he had never even seen the rest of Chu county that was controlled by the Chu family. Now, he had to stay at home and slowly become stronger. No matter how envious he was, he would not leave. He would not even take a step out of the courtyard. After Chu Yun left, there was no one to accompany him. If he wanted to stay at home comfortably, he had to stabilize his state of mind. As for closed-door cultivation, such a thing did not exist in his mind. His cultivation had been soaring, and there was no need for closed-door cultivation right now. It was possible that this was also what the system intended. If he went into closed-door cultivation for a few months or a few years at a time, then it would be meaningless to stay at home. Before Chu Yun left, she originally wanted to ask Chu Tianming for mercy and to allow Chuzan to return to the ancestral residence. However, Chuzan refused. He said that he had just angered his grandfather, Chu Tianming, so it would definitely be difficult for him to return to the ancestral residence. If she were to punish him after she left, no one would help him plead for mercy. Upon hearing Chuzan's words, Chu Yun temporarily dismissed the idea of pleading for mercy. However, she promised that when she returned from her experiential learning, she would definitely plead on his behalf. Moreover, she encouraged Chuzan to break through to the profound realm as soon as possible so that he would not have to stay in the clan land and be restricted. Under Chuzan's request, Chu Yun brought a lot of copied books over. Time passed quickly. Soon, it was the 20th day that Chuzan had stayed in the courtyard. It had been another 10 days. Chuzan was really looking forward to what rewards he would receive. Currently, his cultivation was already at the 6th level of the profound realm. He still had 2 full boxes of great profound pills and spirit-nurturing pills. Other than the system's fixed daily rewards, one of the boxes was a random reward that had been triggered. The Chu family's servant competition had ended and the servant who was responsible for delivering his meals and cleaning had thus been replaced. Chuzan did not know how many cultist spies had been caught in the process. However, the Chu family was about to take action against the cultist forces hidden in Chu County. The person in charge of clearing out the cultist forces was Chu Qing. The day before, Chu Qing had left to make a trip to the courtyard and asked Chuzan if he wanted to go out with him to gain experience and broaden his horizons. He would plead with his grandfather to allow him to leave. Chuzan refused. What kind of joke was this? He was only at the profound realm. If he left now, the records that he had built up for so long would be wiped clean. The profound realm did not guarantee safety outside. Although there were experts from the Chu family protecting him in the dark, what if something unexpected happened? Would he not lose his life? Therefore, it was still safer to stay in the clan land and steadily become stronger. When Chu Tianming found out that Chuzan was not willing to leave and was worried that he would encounter danger outside, his cowardly character made him lose his temper again. Why did his talented third son give birth to a cowardly person? It was all Chuzan's mother's fault. Chu Tianming was so angry that he said, "Just let him stay there. Out of sight, out of mind." On the other hand, Chuzan was happy to be alone. 20 days later, the system reward arrived. You've been cooped up for 20 days. The reward is a high-grade treasure weapon, the spirit-slaying saber. High-grade treasure weapon. Chuzan was pleasantly surprised. One had to know that the main weapon of the Chu family was only a middle-grade treasure weapon. The weapons used by martial artists were divided into mortal weapons, spirit weapons, treasure weapons, and emperor weapons. They were also subdivided into 3 grades: upper, middle, and lower. As the name implied, mortal weapons were only mortal weapons. No matter how sharp they were, and no matter how hard they hit, they could only be used by martial artists in the mortal realm. No matter how strong a mortal weapon was, it could not bear the spiritual power of a martial artist above the profound realm, and could not match the strength of a profound realm martial artist. A spiritual weapon needed special materials and special forging techniques to be created. Not only could this weapon bear the spiritual power of a martial artist above the profound realm, but it could also enhance the martial artist's attack power. The higher the grade, the greater the power. Similarly, it also required a higher cultivation level to be able to display its true power. Chapter 7. 7th Stage Profound Realm, Thunderbolt Finger. Spirit weapons corresponded to the three realms which consisted of the Profound Realm, Spirit Realm, and Void Realm. Martial artists of these three realms were able to wield the power of spirit weapons. However, spirit weapons were unable to amplify martial artists of the Unity Realm and above. They might even be unable to withstand the spiritual power of martial artists of the Unity Realm and above, resulting in a situation where the weapons ends up damaged. A treasured weapon was usually used by a martial artist at the Unity Realm, the True Realm, or the beginning of the Emperor Realm. Martial artists below the Unity Realm could also use a treasured weapon, but they could not unleash its power. Moreover, the cost of treasured weapons was extremely huge. At the end of the day, a treasured weapon was ultimately stronger than a spirit weapon. When both sides were equal in strength, but if one person were wielding a spiritual weapon, against the other holding a spiritual weapon. Even if they could not unleash the power of a spiritual weapon, the final victor would still be the one holding a treasured weapon. As for an emperor weapon, those were on a completely different level. It was far from what a spirit weapon and a treasured weapon could compare to. Chuzan had stayed in his residence for 20 days and obtained a high-grade treasured weapon. It was even more powerful than the Chu family's guardian weapon. How could he not be happy? If he stayed in his residence for a year, an emperor weapon would not just be a dream. The Spirit Slayer Saber's entire body was snow white and there was a faint flow of spirit energy emanating from the blade. With a glance, one could tell that it was extraordinary. Chuzan checked the information about the Spirit Slayer Saber and saw that it was actually a treasured artifact that mainly damaged one's spirit and will. For martial artists, injuries to the spirit and will were more difficult to treat than injuries to the body. Pills and spiritual items that could heal the spirit and will were very rare and expensive. Once the spirit and will were severely injured and could not recover, the path of cultivation would be almost completely cut off. At the same time that the Spirit Slayer Saber injured one's physical body, it also injured one's mental will. It was also able to specifically attack and destroy one's mental will. Attacks that targeted one's mental will were always difficult to defend against. Unless one had a treasure that protected one's mental will or a method to protect the mental will, one could only rely on your natural defense to resist. Chuzan put away the Spirit Slayer Saber. With his current strength of the 6th level of the Profound Realm, as long as he did not encounter a Spirit Realm martial artist, he could even kill a 9th level Profound Realm martial artist with the Spirit Slayer Saber's sharp edge. Moreover, he was cultivating the Emperor's scripture. Compared to others of the same realm, his strength was even greater. There were only 10 days left before he would have been in isolation for a month. Chuzan was looking forward to the reward for a month of seclusion. What would it be? It would definitely not be inferior to the Spirit Slayer Saber. After swallowing a great profound pill and a spirit nurturing pill, Chuzan lay on the reclining chair, leisurely continuing to read while refining the medicinal efficacy. According to his current cultivation speed, he should be able to break through to the 7th level of the Profound Realm the next day. He did not know whether it was an illusion or not, but Chuzan felt that after he broke through to the Profound Realm, his aptitude seemed to have enjoyed a huge increase. It was definitely at the level of Heaven's Pride. Chuzan guessed that perhaps it was because he had entered the profound stage from the mortal realm and broke through this heavenly moat-like entrance that his entire person had sublimated, and thus his aptitude had also sublimated. On the 21st day, Chuzan successfully broke through to the 7th stage of the Profound Realm. The 7th stage was one of the later stages of this realm. Although it appeared like a small leap, the increase in strength was rather great. On this day, the system also rewarded him with a martial skill. Thunder Rolling Finger. It could condense the spiritual energy in the body into lightning, and its power was astonishing. It especially had the ability to restrain evil techniques and yin-obscuring objects. The Thunder Rolling Finger would increase in power as one's realm increased. It wouldn't become an obsolete martial technique just because one's realm had surpassed certain level. Even if one reached the Emperor realm, the Thunder Rolling Finger would still be a powerful offensive technique. Chuzan spent an hour to master the Thunder Rolling Finger. He could soon condense spiritual power into lightning and gather it at his fingertips as he wished. He was able to continuously shoot out lightning bolts. Through the servant, Chuzan learned that the Chu family had launched an operation to wipe out the cults in Chu County. Through this, they wiped out several cults in Chu County in one go. In the process, they killed 3 Spirit Realm Hall Masters and dozens of Dark Realm members of the cults. Chu Qing's method of wiping out the cults was unexpected. Chu Tianming was very happy and praised the Chu family for having a successor. Chu Yun, who had just left the clan grounds to train, also participated in the operation and killed a first-level Profound Realm cultist sect member. Although this purge of the cutest sect had been a great victory, a Void Realm cultist sect elder had escaped. He had even threatened to take revenge on the Chu family. Currently, a Void Realm clan elder and 2 Chu family stewards were chasing after the cultist sect elder. At the same time, the clan had also stepped up their vigilance and defense. According to reliable information, the evil cult in the Qin Kingdom had obtained a concealing technique at a certain ancient site. Therefore, they had to be on guard. The spies from the evil cult in the Chu family had relied on this concealing technique to conceal the presence of their own evil technique and had successfully hidden themselves in the Chu family. After the other 2 great aristocratic families, the Zhao and He families, as well as the royal Qin family, had obtained this information from the Chu family, they launched internal investigations of their own and uncovered many spies. It could be said that because of this operation by the Chu family, the evil cult within the Qin Kingdom had suffered heavy losses. Especially since their concealment techniques had been exposed, it would be several times more difficult to send spies to infiltrate other great aristocratic families. Since the neighboring the Great Zhou Kingdom and the Purple Moon Alliance were also dealing with problems relating to the evil imperial court, the Qin Kingdom would also pass this information to Great Zhou Kingdom and the Purple Moon. It was therefore obvious how much the cult would suffer because of this mistake. Their years of planning had all been for naught. The Chu family naturally also became a thorn in the side of the evil cult, attracting the attention of the cult. As a result, the Chu family stepped up their defenses. At the same time, the Chu family's guards had already started to take action, clearing out the evil cult forces in Chu County. Even if they could not wipe out all of them, they would at least hurt their operations. The Zhao and He families had also made their move. The royal Qin had also ordered all the forces in the territory to cooperate and wipe out the evil cult. After Chu Zan learned this news, he was secretly speechless. He did not expect that just because he had kept a low profile, he would be targeted by a spy from the evil cult. In the end, the evil cult had suffered heavy losses. He also did not know if the higher-ups of the cult would hate him to the bone after hearing this news. He had to keep a low profile and increase his strength as soon as possible. The Chu family was relatively safe. Now that they were on guard, it would not be easy for the cult members to sneak in. However, the development of the matter was out of Chu Zan's expectations. Late at night on the 23rd day, outside the Chu family, 2 figures that seemed to have hidden in the darkness quietly approached. The aura on their bodies showed no fluctuation. They were dressed in black, and they had perfectly blended into the darkness. Not only could they not be seen, even if one were to use their will to sense their surroundings, it would be difficult to detect them without careful observation. The 2 figures slowly entered the Chu family's land and started heading toward Chu Zan's small courtyard. Be careful, the Chu family cannot be underestimated. Don't worry, with these stealth spiritual clothes, as long as we don't enter the core of the Chu family, we won't be discovered. The clothes on the 2 cultists were made of a special material, and the stealth spiritual clothes were made with a special technique. Due to this, they could block the perception of will to a certain extent. The flaw was that this kind of stealth spiritual clothes only displayed this miraculous effect at night. It could blend figures into the night and avoid the perception of the will. Of course, due to their rank, they could only avoid the perception of the Profound Realm martial artists. However, as long as they didn't enter the core area of the Chu family, it would be enough. The 2 cultists didn't come here to assassinate anyone from the Chu family, but to cause destruction. This direction is where the Chu family's defenses are weakest. We'll go through here. The 2 cultists then silently headed toward Chu Zan. Chapter 8. Cultists, Pawns. Chu Zan was actually in the part of the Chu family's estate which seemed to be the easiest to sneak into. The trees around the courtyard were denser, making it easier to hide in. Poisonous smoke and flames could also spread faster, making it harder to extinguish. Late at night, Chu Zan ate a spirit-nourishing pill and was lying on the bed whilst nurturing his will. With the strengthening of his will and the nurturing of the spirit-nourishing pill, Chu Zan did not need to sleep at all. He could still maintain his vigor without it. However, life was still meant to be enjoyed, so Chu Zan would still sleep every now and then. At this time, the 2 cultists outside the courtyard stopped moving forward. They spotted the courtyard at the same time and looked at each other. They seemed to understand each other's thoughts. Then, they quietly approached the courtyard. They stopped in front of the courtyard and communicated with each other through voice transmission. According to my intelligence, the one living here is Chu Chuluo's useless son who was expelled from the ancestral mansion. What do you mean? I think that the opportunity is here. If we manage to control him, our operation tonight will be smoother and more fruitful. We might even have a chance to put the poisonous smoke and fire straight into the Chu family's ancestral mansion. Moreover, we can leave without anyone knowing. Let's do it. I happen to have a heart-deceiving pill with me. It will make him do as we say. The two heretics discussed and soon decided to control Chu Zan. Although I've heard that Chu Chuluo's son is a good-for-nothing, we can't be careless. Use the spirit sealing net. All right. One of them took out a net and opened it. In order to minimize the noise, the two of them each took one side of the net and opened it around the courtyard. The spirit sealing net was a special spirit tool used to seal spiritual energy fluctuations. All spiritual energy fluctuations within the range of the spirit sealing net would be sealed and could not be transmitted out. As long as the spirit sealing net was broken, the people inside would not be able to call for help. The two cultists were not taking any chances. After opening the net, they activated it at the same time. A large net was then tightly sealed in the courtyard where Chu Zan lived. The moment the spirit sealing net was activated, Chu Zan noticed it. His face turned black at that moment. He cursed in his heart. The Chu family was too useless. They did not even know that someone had infiltrated the clan grounds. He lightly sensed the cultists who had entered the courtyard and heaved a sigh of relief in his heart. Both of them were martial artists at the 3rd level of the Profound Realm. He was already at the 7th level of the Profound Realm, and he even had a high-grade treasured weapon, the spirit-severing saber. A mere cultist was nothing in his eyes. As for the spirit-sealing net, he did not care about it at all. After killing the cultist, the spirit-sealing web would self-destruct. Moreover, if he killed 2 cultists who disturbed his privacy, would he be able to obtain a random reward from the system? After the spirit-sealing net was set up, the 2 cultists heaved a sigh of relief, and they did not speak through voice transmission anymore. Why did Chu Chuluo give birth to such a useless son? There's actually no movement at all. I heard that he hasn't even reached the Profound Realm yet. How could he have noticed? Hurry up and take action. Give him the confusion pill, poison smoke, and poison fire. Make him go to the Chu family's ancestral residence to release the poison. I suddenly got an idea. Why don't we control him and treat him as a spy lying in ambush in the Chu family? It'll be much better than eliminating him after just one use. One of the cultists suddenly said. He's a direct descendant of the Chu family, and he's also Chu Chuluo's son. Although Chu Chuluo is missing, who knows if he's still alive? Controlling his son might be of great use in the future. Moreover, this will help him break through to the Profound Realm and return to the core of the Chu family's direct descent. That'll make him even more useful. The 2 cultists discussed in low voices how to control Chu Zan and how to make the most of the trash. The more Chu Zan listened, the darker his expression became. FCK, why were all of them thinking about how to control him? Am I so easy to control, and so easy to use? Have the 2 you finished discussing? Chu Zan opened the door and walked out with a dark face. The spirit sealing net had sealed off the courtyard, which was exactly what he wanted. Now he could kill them without causing any news to spread. He did not want to expose his cultivation level just because he killed 2 cultists. He did not want to receive too much attention and did not want to be put into the limelight. At the moment, he only wanted to stay at home and become stronger. The 2 cultists were shocked. They looked at Chu Zan warily until they realized that he was only at the mortal realm chi gathering stage. They immediately heaved a sigh of relief. Kid, your father, Chu Chuluo, suppressed everyone in his generation. Why are you being suppressed by your peers? You're too useless. One of the cultists laughed sinisterly. Come on, if you join our cult and we ensure that you become stronger, even future control of the Chu family will not be a problem. Anyone sensible will know what the right decision is. 2 cultists, one on the left, one on the right. Don't even think about asking for help. Within the spirit sealing net, no one will come even if you shout your throat out. Ha ha ha, when I see your tender skin, I already know you can't stand suffering. Be obedient and enjoy the services of our cult. I guarantee that you'll be satisfied. It is not just a dream for you to become the head of the Chu family in the future. It's not even a dream for you to change the name of the Qin kingdom to the Chu kingdom. As the heretic spoke in an evil tone, he began to take out some pills. Chu Zan looked at the heretic who was surrounding him. At this point, he was pondering whether he should use the dragon python spirit fist to kill the two people, or if he should use the thunder rolling finger. Or, should he use the spirit slayer saber? Wouldn't using the spirit slayer saber be overkill? Should he try the thunder rolling finger? In the end, he decided to use the two cultists to try out the thunder rolling finger. The dragon python spirit fist killed people and turned them into a pile of flesh and blood, making it difficult to clean them up. The thunderbolt finger's power of lightning pierced through and left a charred wound, making it much easier to deal with corpses. Are you done? If you're done, you can die now. Chuzan raised his right hand and glanced at the two cultists coldly. The two cultists were stunned and felt a bad premonition in their hearts. The other party was too calm and did now seem like a mortal realm martial artist at all. Moreover, this was not the performance of a piece of trash that the boy was rumored to be. Just as they were about to attack, they saw Chuzan tap his finger repeatedly. After this, two bolts of lightning came crashing down. They wanted to dodge or block, but it was too late. They only managed to circulate their spiritual power and formed a spiritual energy shield around their bodies in an attempt to block the lightning. The two of them practiced evil techniques, and they were now restrained by the lightning. Moreover, Chuzan's strength far surpassed theirs, so how could a mere spiritual energy shield withstand it? The lightning flashed, and before they could even let out a scream, a thumb-sized burn wound that was filled with black smoke appeared on their foreheads. The lightning triggered by the thunderbolt finger directly pierced through the heads of the two cultists, leaving two small, charred holes. The corpses fell to the ground. There was still a look of disbelief on their faces. Chuzan looked at the two corpses on the ground and nodded his head in satisfaction. The power of the thunderbolt finger was not weak. His cultivation was not bad. The power of the thunderbolt did not spread out, nor did it burn his entire body. It left behind only a charred wound. If the power of the thunderbolt did not spread out, the piercing power was even stronger, and it was even harder to resist. However, when he looked at the two corpses on the ground, Chuzan was troubled again. What should he do with the corpses? He could not leave the courtyard. Once he left the courtyard, it would waste all the time he spent in his residence. He could not bury the corpses in the courtyard, right? If there were two corpses buried in his courtyard, it did not matter how he looked at it, he would feel disgusted. You killed a cultist who tried to disturb your lifestyle. You were rewarded with a spirit-devouring flower. Chapter 9. Spirit-devouring flower. As expected, killing the cultists who attacked him triggered the system's random reward. However, this time, the reward was not a cultivation technique, secret technique, pill, or artifact, but a plant. Spirit-devouring flower. Chuzan checked the information on the spirit-devouring flower. Spirit-devouring flower, a rare plant from heaven and earth. It can devour everything. It especially likes to devour poisons, dark objects, and other things. It also likes to devour corpses. When it's young, it already possesses simple intelligence and can walk. The flower is beautiful and has the power to confuse. After reading the description of the spirit-devouring flower, Chuzan was pleasantly surprised. With the spirit-devouring flower, it was much easier to deal with the corpses. Other than devouring, the spirit-devouring flower also had the miraculous effect of healing the soul. The fruit it produced could cleanse the body and soul, strengthen talent, and increase the power of comprehension. It had the miraculous effect of helping to break through bottlenecks. Other than that, the spirit-devouring flower's attack was also very powerful. It could devour the mind and soul, and it could record all the memories of the mind and soul it devoured. Chuzan took out the spirit-devouring flower, and a 1-meter-tall, small fist-sized tree with colorful flowers appeared. The branches of the tree were as soft as vines. Not a single leaf could be seen. The entire tree was full of flowers, the fragrance was enchanting, and the flowers were in different shapes, appearing bright and beautiful. As soon as the spirit-devouring flower was taken out, Chuzan detected a faint mental connection with it whereby it immediately recognized him as its master. Swallow it. Chuzan wanted to see the devouring ability of the spirit-devouring flower, so he pointed at the corpse on the ground and ordered. The roots of the spirit-devouring flower were densely packed. After landing on the ground, the plant could actually walk, like a small tree that had turned into a spirit. In an instant, it arrived in front of the two corpses. The roots instantly spread out like a dense net, covering the two corpses. The naked eye could easily see that the two corpses were rapidly decomposing under the roots of the spirit-devouring flower. In less than half a minute, the corpses disappeared. Even the clothes on the corpses disintegrated and disappeared. Not to mention the things carried by the corpses. After swallowing the corpses, the flower on the spirit-devouring flower swayed and became even more beautiful and charming. Chuzan gulped slightly. The spirit-devouring flower's consumption was even more impressive than he had expected, and this was while it was still in its infancy. Looking at the beautiful and charming spirit-devouring flower that was swaying in front of him, Chuzan decided to try its other magical ability. It recorded the memories of the spiritual will and soul it had previously devoured. The two cultists were both profound realm martial artists who had just died, so their spiritual will had not completely dissipated from the world yet. The spirit-devouring flower must have devoured their spiritual will. He could check if the two cultists had taken any secret actions against the Chu family before this. He did not want the Chu family to suffer a major blow at the hands of the cultists. If the Chu family was threatened, how would he be able to stay safely at home? Therefore, he soon instructed the spirit-devouring flower. The spirit-devouring flower made a swishing sound and its petals glowed before forming an image out of thin air. The image contained the memories of the two cultists. Chuzan then instructed the spirit-devouring flower to look through the important memories, particularly the memories of the past month. There were also some memories that were deep-set and related to the cult or the Chu family. After looking through the memories of the two cultists, Chuzan roughly understood the purpose of their trip. The sudden actions of the Chu family caught the cultists in Chu County off guard, and they had suffered heavy losses without warning. In order to weaken the Chu family, they had paid a heavy price. They took the two sets of undercover spirit clothes, picked out two cultists who were good at sneaking and hiding, and had them put on the undercover clothes before sneaking into the Chu family's land to cause trouble. The cultist carried poisonous smoke and poisonous fire. They did not need to sneak into the Chu family's ancestral house, nor could they do so even if they intended to. Instead, they only needed to release poisonous smoke and poisonous fire in the Chu family's land. This was not an ordinary poisonous smoke and fire. It would have a huge impact and cause major damage to profound realm martial artists. What was more terrifying was that the poisonous smoke would stick to the grass and trees and would not dissipate for a long time. Without special medicine, it would be difficult to completely eliminate it. It would take at least 100 years for the poison to be eliminated via natural means. Burning for such a long time was equivalent to the destruction of the Chu family's land. Even if the Chu family had the ability to remove the remaining poison from the smoke, they would still need to pay a hefty price. This was enough to cause considerable losses to the Chu family. The poison fire was also not straightforward. It was a unique poison. After it was released, it would burn like a flame, possessing the unique property of absorbing and burning spiritual energy. It was also difficult to extinguish, as the only way to completely extinguish it was to isolate the spiritual energy. Moreover, after isolating the spiritual qi, the poison fire could still burn for more than half a day before it was completely extinguished. If it absorbed a little bit of spiritual qi midway through the process, it would once again continue to burn. If the poison fire had been released into the Chu family's land, the Chu family would have needed to mobilize many martial artists above the spirit realm as well as many spirit weapons in order to isolate such a vast area. Moreover, they would need to isolate it for more than half a day, which would occupy a lot of martial artists. During this period of time, the Chu family's defense would undoubtedly be at its weakest, and they would be exposed to a certain degree of danger. In order to carry out this plan, the cult could be said to have paid a huge price. After Chuzan read through the memories of the cult members, he could not help but sigh. If it were not for the other party wanting to control him and increase their results today, the Chu family's land at this time would have already fallen into chaos. There would definitely have been many casualties. Of course, most of the casualties would have been servants. After all, the important members of the Chu family lived in their ancestral home. This matter also made Chuzan wary. The Chu family's land was not impenetrable. The ancestral home might not have any problems, but the danger within the family's land wasn't small. The cultists had worn stealth clothes and sneaked in, blocking the perception of the patrolling guards. Moreover, he only discovered it when they reached the courtyard. He still was not vigilant enough. Now that he had the spirit-devouring flower, he could feel more at ease. He did not have to worry about being stealthily ambushed. Glancing at the spirit sealing net that covered the courtyard, he saw one of the spirit-devouring flower's branches extending and spreading upward. The flower on the branch was beautiful. The flower was like a trumpet. It attached itself to the spirit sealing net and sucked until the entire spirit sealing net was devoured. Chuzan smacked his lips. The spirit-devouring flower was a little too awesome. It even devoured a spirit tool. Moreover, this was only when it was in its infancy. After devouring the spirit sealing net, the spirit-devouring flower's roots crawled and quickly escaped to a corner of the courtyard. The roots dug into the soil, and most of the flowers closed, leaving only 2 blooming flowers on its branches. It now appeared like a small flower tree. Other than its beautiful flowers, there was nothing special about it at all. The spirit-devouring flower was a sinister plant. Looking at its ordinary appearance, it seemed to be waiting for someone to fall into its trap. After silently dealing with the cultists and now having the spirit-devouring flower to guard the house, Chuzan could finally continue to sleep peacefully. He took out a spirit-nourishing pill and threw it into his mouth. Just as he was about to return to his room to continue cultivating his spirit and will, he saw a branch stretch out. The flower on the branch bloomed and its petals moved, making it seem like it was asking for something. "You're eating all of this." Chuzan directly threw 2 spirit-nourishing pills and 2 great profound pills toward the flower. After this, the spirit-devouring flower withdrew its branch in satisfaction. Chapter 10. Spirit Cultivating Diagram and 100 Tempering Divine Technique. It was the 29th day of Chuzan's residence in the courtyard, and tomorrow would mark a month. Ever since he had killed the heretics who infiltrated the Chu family, there were no more heretics who tried to infiltrate the Chu family. Over the past 2 days, Chuzan had learned from the servants that the heretics in the Chu county, which was the Chu family's territory, had suffered a heavy blow from the Chu family and had lost a Void Realm Elder. The entire Qin kingdom was shaken. All of the forces were shocked by the manner the Chu family had suddenly bared their fangs. Even the servants knew the results of the battle. It could be seen that the Chu family had obtained a considerable victory in this operation. As long as the Chu family's fief was not conquered, Chuzan could stay at ease and gradually become stronger. 1 month's time was soon up. Chuzan was looking forward to what the system would reward him with after staying in the courtyard for 1 month. You've been in seclusion for a month. Your reward is the Immovable Mountain Technique. The reward for a month's seclusion was the Immovable Mountain Technique. Chuzan received the reward. The Immovable Mountain was a powerful defensive technique. It was both a physical defensive technique and a divine soul defensive technique. Once one succeeded in cultivating it, one's body would be as sturdy as a mountain and would be hard to shake. This was especially in terms of the divine soul defensive technique. It was almost as if layers of mountains protected his divine soul. As long as one could not break past the defense of the mountains, one would not be able to harm his divine soul. This was an extremely powerful defensive technique, even when one reached the Emperor realm. Chuzan immediately began to cultivate the Immovable Mountain Technique. His body shook as his spiritual power condensed. After a few hours, he successfully understood the rudimentary concepts behind the technique's cultivation method. His spiritual will was like a huge mountain that shielded him from external attacks. At the same time, Chuzan broke through to the 9th level of the Profound Realm. Time passed by quickly. In the blink of an eye, the end of the 2nd month was about to arrive. Chuzan already had half a foot into the threshold of the spirit realm. The speed of his cultivation was fast enough to shock countless geniuses. During this month, Chuzan had obtained various rewards from the system. There were cultivation techniques, secret techniques, medicinal pills, spiritual items, and treasured artifacts. Even though he was in the courtyard, and did not even take a single step out, Chuzan was aware of the tense situation in Chu County. After the cult had suffered heavy losses, they had launched a surprise attack. The Chu family had lost a spirit realm steward and more than a dozen profound realm juniors. At this moment, the Qin kingdom was basically using the entire country's strength to wipe out the cult. Under the orders of the Qin royal family and the pressure of the 3 aristocratic families, countless forces and martial artists within the Qin kingdom had participated in the effort to encircle and suppress the cult. Besides the Qin kingdom, the neighboring Great Zhou and the Purple Moon kingdoms also began to take action. The defenses of the Chu family's territory were further strengthened. Occasionally, there would be spirit realm guards to guard the territory. 3 days ago, a short battle took place in the Chu family's territory. It was not far from Chuzan's courtyard. The battle soon ended, but it also made Chuzan worried. If a spirit realm or even a void realm heretic cult expert attacked, would it not be very dangerous for him to live at the edge of the family's territory? He had to break through to the spirit realm as soon as possible. Now, the encirclement of the heretic cult was no longer limited to just one force of the Chu family, but the combined efforts of the Qin, Great Zhou, and Purple Moon kingdoms. One had to know that the force behind the heretic cult was the evil imperial court. Would the evil imperial court sit back and watch the cult be exterminated? This encirclement of the cult could be said to have been led by the Chu family, and it was also the Chu family that foiled the cult's previous plot. If the evil imperial court really made a move, their first target would definitely be the Chu family. They had to increase their strength as soon as possible before the evil imperial court made their move. You've been in seclusion for 2 months. You've been rewarded with a box of Great Spirit pills. Great Spirit pills were pills used to break through to the spirit realm, and they were also cultivation pills for those in the spirit realm. Chu Zan immediately swallowed a Great Spirit pill to break through. After breaking through to the spirit realm, Chu Zan let out a slight sigh of relief. The spirit realm was not considered weak in the Qin kingdom. No matter how powerful the cult was, there were not many spirit realm experts. At this moment, Chu Zan was confident that as long as it was not an assault by a void realm expert, he would be able to deal with it. In the blink of an eye, it was almost March. Chu Zan had been staying in the courtyard for almost 3 months now. He did not even take a single step out of the courtyard. The people he saw every day were the servants who delivered his meals and cleaned his courtyard. They did not speak much. In the courtyard, other than the spirit-devouring flower, there was not even a small animal. Chu Zan was very calm. After all, he was not strong enough. It was too dangerous for him to go out now. No matter how boring it was, Chu Zan could remain steadfast. Do you think it's too boring to stay alone? I'll reward you with a pet, a heavenly spirit cat. A pet. Chu Zan was pleasantly surprised and immediately received the reward. A snow-white, silly, and cute-looking cat appeared. The heavenly spirit cat is a mystical beast of heaven and earth. It can enter the 9 netherworlds and ascend to the 9 heavens. It's good at hiding and possesses extreme speed. It looks silly and cute on the outside, but, once it is enraged, it will release the power of a divine beast, the white tiger. Chu Zan looked at the information on the heavenly spirit cat and could not help but exclaim in astonishment. This silly and cute little cat was actually a mystical beast of heavens and earth, and its strength was extremely terrifying. Of course, the current one he had was still in its infant stage. Its strength was only around the 3rd level of the spirit realm. However, with the heavenly spirit cat's extreme speed and agility, even a 1st-level void realm martial artist would be unable to injure it. Chu Zan's residence was no longer dull and monotonous. Aside from reading books, he could also pet his cat. The cat ate a Great Spirit pill every day. Chu Zan sighed. In the entire continent, no one was as extravagant as he was, feeding the cat with Great Spirit pills. You've been in seclusion for 3 months. Your reward is the Spirit Cultivating Diagram in the 100 Tempering Divine Technique Part 1. Chu Zan's spirit was roused. The spiritual will cultivation method that he had been thinking about all this while had finally arrived. The Spirit Cultivating Diagram was a mysterious picture. Displayed on it were twisted and rotating lines, forming a picture that looked like mountains and rivers. At a glance, one could not help but immerse oneself into it. One could even feel that the lines of the picture were continuously rotating and twisting. In just a few minutes, Chu Zan felt dizzy and he hurriedly averted his gaze. The moment he averted his gaze, the dizzy feeling disappeared, and his spiritual will actually grew a little. Chu Zan was pleasantly surprised. Looking at the spirit cultivating diagram could help him increase and cultivate his spiritual will. The 100 Tempering Divine Technique was a great technique that surpassed the Emperor-level scripture. Even if it was just the first part, it was still extremely powerful. With the help of the Spirit Cultivating Diagram, the strength of Chu Zan's spiritual will skyrocketed. It was even close to that of a Void Realm martial artist. Chu Zan began to cultivate the 100 Tempering Divine Technique bitterly. The stronger his spiritual will, and the wider his perception range, the stronger the bewitching technique would be. In the future, the condensed spiritual soul would also become more solid and powerful. The defense of the immovable mountain technique would also be strengthened. Up until now, Chu Zan had already formed 100 mountains to defend his spiritual will. His next goal was to form 1,000 mountains to firmly defend his spiritual will. To form a mountain to defend his spiritual will required the consumption of spiritual will, and it was not something that could be done overnight. Every time one's spiritual will was expended and subsequently recovered, it would be tempered, and the spiritual will gradually became more and more resilient. The 100 Tempering Divine Technique was meant to continuously temper one's spiritual will, and its quality and quantity would increase at the same time. It just so happened that he could use it to form mountains to defend his spiritual will at the same time. After staying in the courtyard for nearly 4 months, Chuzon's strength had broken through to the 5th level of the spirit realm, and the strength of his spiritual will was no weaker than a 3rd-level void realm martial artist. On this night, a figure stealthily sneaked into the Chu family estate. Even the patrolling spirit realm guards of the Chu family did not notice this person's arrival. Chapter 11. Vice Sect Leader of the Heretic Cult. Lu Chang was the vice sect leader of the Chu County branch of the Heretic Cult in the Qin Kingdom, and his cultivation was at the 3rd level of the spirit realm. With his current strength, he actually did not have the qualifications to become one of the leaders of a county branch. He only earned this position because he was skilled at concealing himself. He had once concealed himself by the side of an expert at the 5th level of the Void Realm for half a month without being discovered. It was precisely due to this ability that he had managed to climb through the ranks and become the vice sect leader of the Chu County branch of the Heretic Cult. The Chu family had wiped out the forces of the cult in Chu County. Facing the Chu family, which was one of the 3 great families of the Qin Kingdom, the cult naturally could not hold back. They had paid a great price to have the disciples of the cult come over to the Chu family's territory to cause trouble in order to force the Chu family to withdraw some of their personnel back to their territory, which would in turn alleviate the dangerous situation the cult was facing. In the end, the 2 cult disciples had disappeared without a trace, and nothing had happened in the Chu family's territory. Faced with the mounting pressure from the Chu family, Lu Chang had no choice but to pay a huge price once more to buy the necessary stealth equipment, after which he acted personally. With Lu Chang's stealth ability, coupled with the stealth equipment, it was not difficult for him to sneak into the Chu family territory. Of course, it was absolutely impossible for him to sneak into the Chu family's ancestral residence. There were many experts in the Chu family's ancestral residence, especially Chu Tianming, who was at the peak of the Void Realm, or perhaps even a half-step Unity Realm expert. No matter how good his stealth ability was, he would be discovered if he got too close. The signature ability of Void Realm experts was to merge their spiritual will and power with the Void and, from there, control even the slightest of movements. No matter how good his stealth ability was, he could not avoid their detection. However, Lu Chang's purpose was only to cause trouble. He only needed to release the poisonous smoke in the Chu family's territory in order to create chaos in the Chu family and force them to bring back their experts to defend the territory. It would be enough to reduce the pressure currently faced by the cult. The poisonous smoke he brought this time was stronger than the one brought by the 2 cult disciples last time, and it was even more difficult to remove. Once it was released in the Chu family's territory, it would definitely cause a lot of damage to the Chu family. He easily avoided the guards of the Chu family. Even spirit realm guards would not be able to discover traces of his stealth ability. After Lu Chang entered the Chu family's territory, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. The Chu family was a sitting duck now, just waiting for the poisonous smoke to be released. This was the border of the Chu family's territory. In order to create better results, Lu Chang decided to continue sneaking further in. At the very least, he had to get close to the inner area of the Chu family's territory. In the entire Chu family's territory, the defense of this particular section was the weakest. It would be the easiest to sneak in from here, and he would also be able to escape easily in this direction. Lu Chang continued to sneak further in. He did not go very far before he saw a small courtyard in the distance. The intelligence reports indicate that Chu Chuluo's son was expelled from the ancestral residence. It seems that he lives in that courtyard. Thoughts flashed through Lu Chang's mind. He had a bold idea. Chu Chuluo was the peerless genius of the Chu family. He had once dominated his entire generation in the Qin Kingdom. His son was trash though. In the end, however, he was Chu Chuluo's son. If he died, that old ghost Chu Tianming would definitely not feel good, right? What if Chu Chuluo was still alive and returned to the Chu family to find out that his son had been expelled by that old ghost Chu Tianming, which resulted in his son being killed by the cult? Would he still be able to stay peacefully in the Chu family? Perhaps, he might even fall out with that old ghost Chu Tianming. Although Chu Chuluo's son had been expelled, if he wanted to return to the ancestral residence, the servants would not dare to stop him, right? Even if he could not return to the ancestral residence, releasing poisonous smoke outside the ancestral residence could still affect the Chu family's ancestral residence. What a good opportunity! Lu Chang's eyes lit up. This was a heaven-sent opportunity. The more he thought about it, the more excited Lu Chang became. This was an opportunity that old ghost Chu Tianming had personally created for him. Silently, Lu Chang arrived at the courtyard. However, he did not know that when he approached the courtyard, a silly and cute-looking kitten had been silently following behind him. Liu Chang waved his hand and a stream of spiritual power surged out. It transformed into a python and headed toward Chuzan's room. Spiritual power that could be transformed into form, and that power could be controlled by one's spirit. It was symbolic of the spirit realm. Chuzan was speechless. Were these heretics crazy? Why did they sneak in one by one, and the first thing they thought of was how to control him? Moreover, the Chu family was too king useless. They had been infiltrated once again. When Liu Chang approached the courtyard, Chuzan had already noticed it. He left a spiritual energy body in his place, hiding his real body in a dark corner of the courtyard. The spiritual energy body left behind by Chuzan was lifelike, almost like a real person. Moreover, he had attached a trace of spiritual will to it. Unless it was seen with the naked eye, it would be impossible to notice that it was not his real body. The python formed by Liu Chang's spiritual power quickly tied up Chuzan's spiritual energy body. Chu Chuluo's son really is trash. Liu Chang sighed endlessly. He was afraid that this was a bait, so he used his transformed spiritual power to tie Chuzan up. The spiritual power python returned. Liu Chang suddenly felt that something was wrong. Chuzan's body seemed to be somewhat abnormal. Although there were still spiritual will fluctuations, why did that body not look like a flesh and blood body? Not good. The alarm bells in Liu Chang's heart rang wildly. That was not his real body, but a body formed from spiritual power. It was actually bait. That old ghost Chu Tianming was indeed treacherous. He was careless. No matter what, he was still Chu Chuluo's son. No matter how useless he was, how could that old ghost Chu Tianming not have any protective measures in place at all? Liu Chang's figure retreated explosively. He was about to escape from the courtyard and release poisonous smoke simultaneously. Pa! Suddenly, his shoulder sank. A furry thing suddenly jumped onto his shoulder. There was no warning or sound, he did not even have the chance to dodge at all. Liu Chang's scalp turned numb and cold sweat kept pouring down his forehead. At the critical moment, the spiritual power in his whole body was about to shock the thing on his shoulder to death. Pa 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 pa! His spiritual power dissipated, and his face and head were hit countless times in an instant. He only felt a small, fleshy paw slapping his face and head at an extremely fast speed. His face was swollen, and his vision seemed to be spinning in circles. His head was dizzy, and his spiritual will was trembling. His vision was also gradually turning blurry. He was going to lose consciousness. Liu Chang wanted to put up a desperate final struggle, but it was useless. The moment he fell, he knew that he had fallen for good. Chuzan walked out and looked at Liu Chang, who was lying on the ground. A mere third-level spirit realm cultivator dared to come and try to deal with him. He was courting death. The cat easily took him down. Looking at the cute cat, Chuzan could not help but sigh. This cat's small claws were really fast. It moved and left a series of afterimages. Liu Chang did not even have the slightest ability to resist before he fell. This too was because the cat's claws had shown mercy. The cat had landed on his shoulder. It would be strange if he did not fall. Looking at Liu Chang, who was lying on the ground, Chuzan frowned. What should he do? Hand him over to the Chu family? There was a risk of exposing himself that way. In that case, it was better to kill him. The spirit-devouring flower sneakily moved over. The flower poked out and prodded Liu Chang's fallen body, indicating that it wanted to swallow him. Swallow him. Chuzan nodded. The spirit-devouring flower was very happy. Its roots climbed up over his body and soon, it had swallowed Liu Chang. Liu Chang, the vice-sect leader of the heretic cult, who was in charge of Chu County, left peacefully. Take a look at his memories. Chuzan instructed the spirit-devouring flower to retrieve Liu Chang's memories and show them to him. Liu Chang was the vice-sect leader of the heretic cult in Chu County. His status was not low. It was just that he was a little weak. As for his stealth ability, it was useless to Chuzan. He had brought poisonous smoke to wreak havoc again. Was this all the cult could do? Chapter 12. Soul Seed Seal. You killed a heretic who tried to destroy your secluded lifestyle. You've been rewarded with a Soul Seed Seal. The system's voice rang out as Chuzan took out the Soul Seed Seal. The Soul Seed Seal could plant a soul seal on the enemy's spiritual will or soul. Once a soul seal was planted, the enemy's life or death would be in Chuzan's hands. Furthermore, he could force the person to act according to his own spiritual will, and they would be unable to resist or disobey. The most terrifying thing was that, even though the controlled person was clearly conscious and had a clear mind, he would be unable to go against his will. If the controlled person was asked to kill the person he loved the most, he would still be unable to resist the order. However, the controlled person still maintained their mental clarity. This would definitely be the most terrifying torture for the controlled person. The soul seed seal could be considered an extremely terrifying secret technique. That small seal was the foundation of the soul seed seal. It was not a treasure or divine weapon. It was an evolution of a secret technique. The system directly rewarded him with it, so Chuzan did not need to painstakingly cultivate it in order to create it. Chuzan was overjoyed. With the soul seed seal, he could control the heretics who wanted to harm him, and he could also control the heretics to fight against each other. Once the soul seed seal was planted, the controlled persons would still be conscious, and their mental clarity would still be present. However, they would not be able to betray or act against the will of the controller. If Chuzan forcefully controlled their will to kill the other heretics, this would undoubtedly result in great chaos among the heretic cult. After all, the heretics kept looking for him again and again. Chuzan's heart also felt pressured. Lu Chang's strength was not worth mentioning, but what if the heretic cult sent a Void Realm expert the next time? He would definitely not be able to kill him silently. He would only be able to alert the experts of the Chu family. If that was the case, he would be exposed. How could he secretly become stronger then? In a worst-case scenario, what if the evil imperial court sent experts over as well? Therefore, he had to increase his strength as soon as possible. If he did not enter the Emperor realm, he would not feel safe. Even if he was at the Emperor realm, he would not be safe in this vast world where there were countless experts. Of course, if he reached the Emperor realm, he would at least be very safe in the southern region. It was rumored that there were no Emperor realm experts in the southern region. Quietly, the evil cult's plan to disrupt and destroy the Chu family's territory disintegrated. The Chu family knew nothing about it. After destroying the cult's plot, Chuzan remained low-key. The main focus of the Chu family was on eliminating the cult. The direct descendants of the Chu family seemed to have forgotten about his existence. The battle with the cult became more and more intense. Even the servants who delivered his food had heard a lot of news. Chuzan could only hope that the evil imperial court would not send over any experts to attack. Just the power of the evil cult itself was not enough to shake the Chu family. In the entire southern region, the Chu family was indeed nothing but, in the Qin kingdom, they were one of the three great aristocratic families, and their strength was not weak either. Chuzan had been staying in seclusion for 4 months now. You have stayed in seclusion for 4 months. You have been rewarded with a sword control technique. The reward for 4 months of seclusion was a sword control technique, and the grade of the technique was the Emperor level. Chuzan's strength had risen to the 7th level of the spirit realm, and his speed of cultivation was so fast that it would make the elites of the world cry, and make the saints weep. The cat's strength had also increased a little, and it was now at the 5th level of the spirit realm. As for the spirit-devouring flower, after swallowing Lu Chang, it also ate great spirit pills every day, so its growth was not slow either. Although it still looked like a small tree, once its true form was revealed, it would be up to 200 to 300 meters tall. In a cave in Chu County, a few people exuding evil auras gathered. The person in the lead wore a black mask. He was skinny and had gray hair. He sat at the head of the group without saying a word. What happened to Lu Chang? Why haven't there been any movements? A man with a scar on his face asked. Was he discovered and killed by the Chu family? In the group, a woman with an enchanting figure and a colorful face frowned. Impossible, there were no signs of battle in the Chu family's territory. Some people denied the possibility. Then what happened? Did Lu Chang not make a move? Did he betray us? Impossible. Who would accept a member of our cult? Betrayal won't result in a good ending. Perhaps Lu Chang is waiting for an opportunity to release the poisonous smoke into the core area of the Chu family's territory. The higher-ups of the cultists, Chu County branch were discussing the possibilities animatedly. Leader, the Chu family has gone too far. We should report this to the Imperial Court and have them send experts over. Do we have to trouble the Imperial Court over the mere matter of the Chu family? Aren't we useless in that case? Why would the Imperial Court take us seriously? The masked man in the leader's seat pressed his hands together and said, the Chu family has indeed gone too far. Tell Lu Chang to stop waiting for an opportunity and to act immediately. Chu Qing, the heavens blessed of this generation of the Chu family, is in charge of this operation against our cult. That old ghost Chu Tianming wants to use our cult to train his juniors, but I don't know what that old ghost will do if Chu Qing dies. Spread the word and locate Chu Qing's position. I will personally take his dog life. Yes, cult leader. A group of cult experts left the cave one after another. One of them began to think of a way to contact Lu Chang. He took out a bead and crushed it. This was a signal. Once the bead was crushed, the bead on Lu Chang's body would also be crushed. This meant that he would have to act immediately. The bead was a one-way communication device. If the bead in Lu Chang's hand was crushed, the original corresponding bead would not be crushed. Therefore, he did not know that Lu Chang had already turned into a cold corpse. 3 days later, the cult experts gathered again in the cave again. At first, there was a period of silence. Lu Chang may have died. The Chu family was calm and peaceful. There were no movements at all. During these 3 days, the Chu family somehow obtained information and attacked a hidden base of the cult. Another Void Realm Elder had died. The cult had suffered heavy losses. There were only so many Void Realm experts in the branch of the cult in the entire Chu County, yet 2 of them had already died. To the cult in Chu County, it was as if their bones and tendons had been ripped from them. Apart from Chu County, the imperial family of the Qin Kingdom had also attacked aggressively and killed a Void Realm Elder of the cult. The Zhao family and the He family did not show any weakness either and also killed a Void Realm Elder. The Great Zhou and Purple Moon Kingdoms, which had obtained information from the Qin Kingdom, also launched an operation to wipe out the heretic cult and weed out the originally hidden heretic cult spies. They lost 3 Void Realm Elders. All of this was because of the Chu family. The hidden techniques and methods of the heretic cult were also discovered and revealed by the Chu family, destroying the heretic cult's many years of planning. How despicable! Since the Chu family has discovered the hidden techniques and methods of our cult, it would naturally not be easy for Lu Chang to sneak in. Let's forget about the Chu family for the time being and force the He family to gather their experts back to defend. In the end, the cult decided to destroy the He family's territory and force the He family to withdraw their experts back to their territory, making sure that the experts of the He family could not come to the support of Chu County. When the imperial court arrives, we must destroy the Chu family first. How utterly despicable they've been. A cult expert said hatefully. Chu Zan heard a piece of news that shook the Qin Kingdom. After the servant delivered the food each day, Chu Zan would ask for news about the club. He actually found out that, just a day ago, the He family's territory had been infiltrated by the cult experts, who released poisonous smoke and fire. 1/3 of the family's territory had been destroyed, especially the medicinal herbs in one of the spirit fields, wherein almost all of the herbs had been destroyed. It could be said that they had suffered heavy losses. Hundreds of servants had been killed or injured, and several spirit realm guards had died. Chapter 13, Heaven's Fate Saber Scripture, Extreme Dao Technique. The He family had already recalled their experts to their family's territory, and were doing their best to eliminate the poisonous smoke and fire. However, even if they successfully did so, that portion of the territory would still be affected to a certain extent. Once news of this matter was out, the Zhao clan also gathered their experts to defend their territory. Even the royal family of the Qin Kingdom also recalled many experts to guard their important defensive locations. The Chu family also recalled a portion of their experts, and the defenses around the family's territory were once again strengthened. As the person who initiated this purge of the heretic cult, and the one who had also destroyed the cult's long-held plans, Chu Tianming knew very well that the Chu family must have already become a thorn in the flesh of the heretic cult. What he was puzzled about was why the heretic cult had chosen to act upon the He family first. After the He family suffered that blow, it would be several times more difficult for the cult to launch a surprise attack on the Chu family. Were the cultists out of their minds? Chu Zan could not help but mourn for the He family. The cult had attacked the Chu family again and again, but were foiled by him time and time again, resulting in them switching their target to the He family. However, the purge of the heretic cult would continue. The He family would not give up after suffering such a big loss. Although the family had recalled some of the stronger experts to defend the territory, they sent out a 7th-level Void Realm expert to pursue and kill the experts of the heretic cult. A 7th-level Void Realm expert was already considered to be a peak expert in the Qin Kingdom. For a period of time in the future, there would be no more cultists trying to sneak into the territory. Every day, Chu Zan would hear news about the cult from the servants. The forces of the cult in Chu County had lost at least 60% of their overall strength. They had suffered an unprecedented major blow. Chu Tianming was becoming more and more satisfied with Chu Qing, and it was almost certain that he would become the next patriarch of the Chu family. Half a year, Chu Zan had been residing in the courtyard for half a year. For half a year, he had not left the courtyard. Every day, he would either read a book, play with the cat, or sleep soundly. His days passed very comfortably. Boring, such a word did not exist in his dictionary. Whenever he thought about the dangers outside, and the fact that he could become stronger by staying indoors, he felt that there was no way he could think of such a wonderful thing as boring. His cultivation had broken through to the void realm. Chu Zan transformed his spiritual will and spiritual power and spread them over 100-meter radius around the courtyard. Within this area, not even the slightest movement could escape his notice. Moreover, he could silently launch an attack on anyone who stepped into this area. The hallmark of a void realm expert was the ability to merge one's spiritual will and spiritual power with the void, almost as if merging one's entire person into the void. On the other hand, the hallmark of the unity realm was the merging of spiritual will and spiritual power into both the void and reality. After merging them into one would be considered to have reached the unity realm. In half a year's time, he had cultivated from the mortal realm to the void realm at an unprecedented speed. Now that he was at the void realm, Chu Zan finally felt that he had some ability to protect himself in the Qin kingdom. With the various rewards he had obtained, he was not afraid of facing even a peak void realm expert. What he cultivated was an emperor-level scripture. You have been in seclusion for half a year. Your reward is the Heaven's Fate Saber scripture. Keep up the good work and continue to explore the pleasures of seclusion. The reward for his half-a-year period of seclusion had arrived. The Heaven's Fate Saber scripture was an extreme Dao technique. In terms of grade, it surpassed the emperor-level scripture. However, as it was an extreme Dao technique, its grade was a little hard to define. Extreme Dao techniques focused on cultivating one's Dao to the limits, or to the extreme so to speak. The extreme Dao was best represented by the word, extreme. To cultivate an extreme Dao technique was actually very demanding. It was not something that could be successfully cultivated simply because one was talented. Chu Zan was not a person who could cultivate an extreme Dao technique. However, after he received the Heaven's Fate Saber scripture, he naturally comprehended it thanks to the help of the system. However, he could not be considered a cultivator of the extreme Dao technique. The Heaven's Fate Saber scripture was the extreme Dao that focused on cultivating the saber. The extreme Dao had no end, and was only limited by the person cultivating it. This was a sentence from the Heaven's Fate Saber scripture. As such, this saber scripture did not have a specific rank. Only those that possessed emperor-level talent could cultivate to the emperor realm, and that was using the emperor-level scripture. Likewise, those who wanted to cultivate to the heaven realm required heaven-level scriptures. The rank of the Heaven's Fate Saber scripture depended on the person who cultivated it. If one wanted to cultivate the Heaven's Fate Saber scripture, one could not depend on one's talent. There was only one sentence that described the requirement to cultivate this scripture, which was, extreme affection would lead one to the extreme Dao. The word, affection, here did not describe the affection between a man and a woman, nor the affection between family members, but rather one's affection for the saber. Only those who were extremely fond of the saber could cultivate the Heaven's Fate Saber scripture and comprehend its profound meaning. Chu Zan was not extremely fond of the saber, so he was not actually suitable to cultivate the Heaven's Fate Saber scripture. However, thanks to the system, he did not need extreme affection for the saber in order to be able to comprehend and cultivate the scripture. After cultivating the Heaven's Fate Saber scripture, Chu Zan was shocked by the might of this extreme Dao technique. He felt that, with his current strength of the first level of the Void Realm, if he were to exert his full strength with a saber strike, he might even be able to kill a martial artist at the first level of the Unity Realm. This was a technique that would allow him to kill an enemy that was an entire major realm higher than his. It was truly terrifying. Of course, that was only if he could successfully pull off the saber strike. However, with this saber strike, it was not an exaggeration to say that he might be the #1 expert of the Chu family now. The cult had suffered a heavy setback in the Qin kingdom and had not made any big moves recently. Unless the evil imperial court made a move, the cult would not be able to stir up any waves for the time being. Chu Zan continued to stay in the courtyard. He had already broken through from the mortal realm to the void realm in half a year. He was waiting for the reward he would receive for a year's worth of seclusion. Chu Zan did not think it would be a big problem for him to break through from the mortal realm to the truth realm in a year's time. On this day, Chu Zan was lying on a chair. The cat was sitting on his lap. One of his hands was rubbing the cat's head, while the other hand was holding a book aloft. Suddenly, a woman's voice was heard. "Brother Seventh, you're really a bad guy. Get your hands off me. We're not married yet, so stay away from me." Chuzan had a strange expression on his face. Who was it? Did they not know that he lived in this courtyard? His spiritual will spread out. In a small forest not far from the courtyard, a man was pressing a woman against a tree trunk. His hands were acting very disobediently. Was that old Seventh? It was said that the old Seventh of the current generation of the Chu family was going to be married to He Weiwei of the He family. So, that delicate and pretty woman was He Weiwei of the He family. Weiwei, getting married is something that will happen sooner or later. Some things don't have to wait till marriage. Old Seventh's voice was gentle, as if he was deceiving an ignorant girl. Don't you understand how I feel? I won't disappoint you. Even if I wanted to, the Chu and He families wouldn't let me. I don't want my legs to be broken. But, it's not good to be doing such a thing in a small forest, right? Don't you think it's more exciting to do this in a small forest? Chuzan's face darkened when he heard that. Old Seventh had the potential to be a scumbag. Could it be that he did not know that he lived inside the small courtyard? He actually came here to fool around. Among the younger generation, Old Seventh's temper was quite bad. His relationship with Chuzan could not be said to be very good, but it was not bad either. It was considered a normal cousinly relationship. But what if someone sees us? He Weiwei's face was flushed red as she said shyly. That look of wanting to reject him but still welcoming him made Chuzan speechless. "Miss, you are full of expectations. Don't worry, no one will see us. I've already made the necessary preparations." Old Seventh took out a roll of red silk. "Look, we'll use this red silk to wrap ourselves like a cocoon so that no one will see us. I've also given instructions so that no one is allowed to come near this place." "It's still not good enough. I don't have any experience. I'm afraid." Chuzan could not bear to watch any longer. "Miss, how was there any fear in your eyes that were full of anticipation?" He was almost sure that these two people had done this more than once. Chapter 14, Stimulation. I don't have any experience either. But it's precisely because I don't have any experience that it's so exciting. The smile on Old Seventh's face gradually became lascivious. He raised his hand and waved it. The red silk unfolded itself, ready to form a large cocoon that would wrap the two inside it to play some exciting games. Chuzan could not stand it anymore. He did not even have a maid, yet Old Seventh was actually trying to provoke him right under his nose. Was this not deliberately provoking him? Thinking about how he was alone in the courtyard, without even a maid to serve, Chuzan sighed. After all, he was the young master of an aristocratic family. This level of treatment was too poor. With a delicate maid around, he would not have to lift a finger. At the very least, she would be pleasing to the eye. Focusing his spiritual will, a thin tree branch floated up off the ground. "Pa!" It fiercely smacked Old Seventh's buttocks. Given that Old Seventh's strength was only at the second level of the profound stage, how could he discover Chuzan's spiritual will? Ow! Old Seventh's hands were still acting dishonestly when his buttocks were suddenly attacked. He was so frightened that he trembled and cried out in pain. "What's wrong?" He Weiwei asked nervously. "Someone hit me." Old Seventh gritted his teeth and said. "There's no one around." He Weiwei said in puzzlement. Old Seventh rubbed his buttocks and spread his spiritual will out, but did not discover anyone. Then, he thought of something and looked at He Weiwei with a strange smile. "Is that so? You're really bad. Let's see how your husband will deal with you." Baring his fangs and brandishing his claws, he threw He Weiwei to the ground. Chuzan's face turned black as he raised the branch again. "Pa!" He gave Old Seventh a hard smack once again. Old Seventh grunted. Beating is a kiss, scolding is love. "Weiwei, your husband will not back down." This bastard, could it be that he had some unspeakable tendencies? Chuzan was speechless. Smack smack smack. He slapped Old Seventh several times consecutively, but that fellow cried out in pain as he continued to prepare to pull off He Weiwei's clothes. He Weiwei's pretty face was flushed red, and she was extremely nervous. She saw a stick smacking Old Seventh. The Chu family's ancestors must have seen them. "I'm going to die. I'm going to die." She was an innocent girl. Faced with such a situation, she would definitely resist. Otherwise, would she not leave a bad impression on the Chu family's ancestors? He Weiwei started to struggle. "No, Brother Seventh, don't be like this. Let me go." "Scream, go ahead and scream. No one will hear you even if you scream until your throat is dry. Old Seventh's blood was boiling. It was all too exciting. Wei Wei was indeed a good match for him. She was being too cooperative. Chuzan was about to vomit blood. For real, this B***-starred Old Seventh must truly have some unspeakable tendencies. Moreover, looking at his appearance, it should not be the first time the two of them had fooled around like this. FCK, they really were a perfect match for each other. If he did not stop them, he would soon have to bear witness to the whole thing. Chuzan used his spiritual will to pick up a thicker branch and poked Old Seventh's butt. Ow! Old Seventh jumped up a few meters, covered his butt, and stared at Wei Wei. Wei Wei, you've gone too far. You actually poked me there. I was almost scared shish. Wei Wei hurriedly tidied up her messy clothes. Her eyes were aggrieved, and she looked at him weakly. It wasn't me, it's a senior from the Chu family. Old Seventh's expression froze. He gulped and said nervously, Wei Wei, was it really not you? It wasn't me. Wei Wei lowered her head. Old Seventh laughed dryly and looked around. Which uncle is present? I was just joking with Wei Wei. It was too awkward. I'm going back. Wei Wei blushed and hurriedly left. Seeing no elders appear, Old Seventh smiled awkwardly and prepared to leave. FCK. It was too FCking awkward to have been seen acting like that in front of an elder. Fortunately, he was thick-skinned enough. When he left the small forest, he saw a small courtyard in the distance. He ran over and asked, 13th, are you there? When he pushed open the door, he saw Chuzan sitting on the reclining chair leisurely. 13th, do you want to go back to the ancestral residence? I'll go and plead for you if that's the case. No need, I'm living quite well here. You're too much. Work harder. As long as you break through to the profound realm, grandfather won't be angry with you anymore. As Old Seventh said this, he looked around the courtyard and asked in a slightly lowered voice, 13th, which uncle visited just now? He did not suspect Chuzan at all. In his eyes, Chuzan, who was supposedly at the mortal realm, would not even be able to sense any movements happening in the small forest. No idea. Chuzan shook his head. Old Seventh walked around the yard and sighed, 13, aren't you lonely? It's difficult for you to stay in the courtyard all alone. Why don't I find two maids to accompany you? Chuzan was a little tempted when he heard his offer, but he immediately shook his head and refused. There's no need. I'm living free and unfettered by myself. Sigh, 13th, you just don't know how to have fun. Look at the surrounding environment. The trees are lush and verdant, and it can be quite interesting there late at night. Old Seventh clicked his tongue. Old Seventh, you're very experienced. A little, just a little. I don't have too much experience. I've just played around a few dozen times. Alone? Chuzan asked after holding back for a long time. How boring would it be to do so alone? This was AFC King C King. Wei Wei could not be a Sea Queen, right? If she was, the two of them were a perfect match. After chatting for a while, Chuzan asked about the cult. The food delivery servant naturally would not know too much information. As a direct descendant, Old Seventh would naturally know more about the matter. The heretic cult had suffered heavy setbacks and, after they went into hiding, their guerrilla-style warfare caused quite a bit of damage to the Chu family. This was especially true half a month ago, where a Void Realm Chu family elder had actually been surrounded and killed. The reason why they had successfully surrounded and besieged that elder was because the heretic cult had paid a huge price to purchase the traces of that family elder's location from the Black Moon Tower, and had set up an ambush in advance. Black Moon Tower was the most mysterious force in the southern region. As long as one could afford the price, they could buy any piece of intelligence, commission any mission, and buy any treasure from Black Moon Tower. Even if the Chu family knew that the Black Moon Tower leaked the whereabouts of the family elder, causing him to be surrounded and killed by the cult's experts, they still did not dare to make a move against Black Moon Tower. Black Moon Tower was too powerful and too mysterious. Moreover, the Chu family would also obtain the resources they needed from Black Moon Tower from time to time. To purchase the information regarding their Chu family elder, the cultists would have had to pay a huge price. Black Moon Tower had always been black-hearted, and their prices were equally as outrageous. The Chu family had also wanted to purchase information on the cult, but their asking price was too high. It was not worth paying at all. Otherwise, they would have long exterminated the cult. Black Moon Tower seemed to be deliberately raising the price to maintain the situation between the different parties in the conflict. If one side was completely victorious, how could Black Moon Tower continue to obtain profits? In fact, in some chaotic places, or in some battles, there were traces of Black Moon Tower adding fuel to the fire. Everyone knew that Black Moon Tower was evil, but because it was too mysterious and powerful, it had spread its wings throughout the entire southern region. No one knew where their headquarters were. No force or dynasty dared to try and destroy Black Moon Tower. In history, a powerful dynasty had destroyed traces of Black Moon Tower within its own territory, but, in less than half a month, that powerful dynasty had been wiped from the face of the continent. In addition, Black Moon Tower was rebuilt soon after. Chapter 15. Minor 5 Elements Array Formation and Thousand Threads Spirit Net. Since the Chu family elder had been ambushed and killed, most of the direct descendants of the Chu family had returned to the ancestral residence. This was to prevent the cult from paying to purchase more information from Black Moon Tower and assassinating the direct descendants of the Chu family. At the same time, the royal family of the Qin kingdom, along with the 3 great aristocratic families, were willing to pay a certain price to negotiate with Black Moon Tower to request that they not accept commissions from the cult in the near future. The main clients of Black Moon Tower here were the royal family of the Qin kingdom and the 3 great aristocratic families, so they agreed. However, frankly speaking, if the price paid by the heretic cult was great enough, Black Moon Tower would still accept the commission anyway. The purge of the heretic cult was still ongoing. Chu Zan tactfully expressed his concern about the evil imperial court. The news he received was that the Qin kingdom had already entrusted Black Moon Tower with the task of paying attention to the movements of the evil imperial court. Once the evil imperial court sent over an expert attack, they would immediately obtain the necessary information. Since the Qin kingdom had a plan to deal with it, Chu Zan did not need to worry about the sudden attack of the evil imperial court. The evil imperial court had many enemies. Once an expert was sent out, even if the Qin country could not defeat that expert, they could still request for help. What Chu Zan was more worried about was the fact that Black Moon Tower was a black-hearted organization. After taking the Qin kingdom's money, they would most likely approach the evil imperial court to obtain even greater benefits. Old 7th returned to the ancestral residence. Chu Zan continued to leisurely stay in the courtyard. Chu Tianming seemed to have forgotten about him. Besides the servants that delivered the food every day, no one else came. By the 7th month, Chu Zan's cultivation had risen to the 3rd level of the Void Realm. Every day, he ate a spiritual pill, and his cultivation speed soared. The heavenly spirit cat already had the strength of the 9th level spirit realm expert. Its speed was not the slightest bit slow. After all, it was a mystical beast of heaven and earth, and it did not lack spiritual pills to feed on, so its strength naturally progressed rapidly. You have been in seclusion for 7 months. You've been rewarded with a minor 5 elements array formation and an array disc. It was an array formation this time. Chu Zan was pleasantly surprised. He knew that array formations were very rare in the southern region. Those who could set up array formations were all Truth Realm experts. Not to mention that an array disc had to be refined by an Emperor Realm expert. According to Chu Zan's understanding, this situation was probably because the southern region was too backward. After receiving the array formation and the array disc, Chu Zan grasped the method to set up the minor 5 elements array formation as well as the method to refine the array disc. He realized that he did not need to be at the Truth Realm either. He could also set up and refine the array disc with his current cultivation level. Of course, the lower his cultivation level was, the weaker the array formation he set up would be, including the array disc he refined. Therefore, the reason why the southern region lacked the Tao of array formations was because the region was too backward, or perhaps because the region had lost the inheritance of array formations. On the array disc, there were 5 small flags representing the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. Chu Zan set up the array formation to encompass the small courtyard. Without activating the formation, the small courtyard still appeared ordinary. However, if the formation was activated, Chu Zan was confident that even a Unity Realm cultivator could be trapped inside. Or even killed. Chu Zan became more confident. As long as the person who came was not at or above the 4th level of the Unity Realm, he had nothing to fear. In the entire Qin kingdom, it seemed that only the royal family had a martial artist who was at the 1st level of the Unity Realm. This was also the reason why the Qin royal family could suppress the 3 aristocratic families. Given that the Qin kingdom was considered weak in the southern region, the fact that they were able to stand strong for such a long time also meant that the region where the Qin kingdom was located was relatively barren and stable. Most likely, the evil imperial court did not think much of the Qin kingdom. It had been 7 months, and the end of the year was inching ever closer. Chuzan was filled with anticipation. The reward for staying in seclusion for a year would definitely surpass the emperor-level scripture he had received previously. Above the emperor realm were the venerated realm, the heaven realm, and so on. In the southern region, the emperor realm was already a fabled existence, and the realms above the emperor realm were the stuff of legends. The cultivation method above the emperor-level scripture was the heaven-level scripture, which was a cultivation method that could be cultivated up to the heaven realm. Not to mention the southern region, even throughout this vast world, heaven realm experts were definitely top-notch existences. Chuzan estimated that the minimum reward for a year of seclusion would at least be at the level of a heaven-level scripture, right? There were still a few days before the 8th month. Suddenly, a piece of news that shocked the entire Chu family arrived. Chu Qing had encountered 3 elders of the heretic cult, including one of the vice sect leaders, and had been attacked. Despite being under the protection of one of the Chu family's elders, he was still heavily injured. A 3rd-level Void Realm elder of the Chu family had fallen. These B***stars. Chu Tianming was enraged. Chuzan could hear Chu Tianming's enraged roar even from the small courtyard. Chu Qing was someone he had specially groomed to succeed the role of family patriarch. He had performed extremely well during the operation to eradicate the cult. Once Chu Qing matured, not only would he be able to stabilize the position and status of the Chu family, he would even be able to bring the family to a higher level. When Chu Qing had been surrounded and attacked, the first thing that came to everyone's mind was whether the information had been sold by Black Moon Tower. When this happened, the people around Chu Qing were all investigated to see if there were any spies of Black Moon Tower present among them. Since they could not do anything to the Black Moon Tower, they could at least kill a few spies. Chu Tianming left the ancestral residence with a treasured artifact and personally attacked the cult. He did not bring the family's treasured artifact out. After all, that was needed to guard the ancestral residence. After Chu Tianming's departure, the Chu family strengthened their defenses yet again. In fact, there were even Void Realm elders patrolling the area. Chu Qing had been heavily injured and Chu Yun, who was also a heavens blessed of the Chu family and doted on by Chu Tianming, might very well become the cult's next target. Chuzan could not help but worry about Chu Yun. Chu Tianming personally took action. At this moment, in the eyes of outsiders, the Chu family's territory was definitely in its most vulnerable state. Chuzan even suspected that it had all been a trick by the cultists to lure the tiger away from the mountain. However, Chu Tianming was not so stupid. Since he dared to leave the ancestral residence, it meant that the Chu family had an expert of the same level as him guarding it. For the Chu family to be able to stand strong for such a long time, it had to have its own foundation. Chuzan, however, could not come into contact with such information. Chuzan raised his vigilance. Since Chu Tianming had left the Chu family's territory, it was very likely that the experts from the cult would come again. At night, Chuzan would activate the minor 5 elements array formation. There did not seem to be anything unusual in the courtyard, but once someone stepped in, they would be trapped inside. With the minor 5 elements array formation, even if there was a battle, he could ensure that the noise and fluctuations from the fight would not spread out. This would prevent the scenario of his strength being exposed due to the battle. After Chu Tianming left, the servants would not naturally not know what was going on with the cult, so Chuzan was unaware of how the matter was progressing. You've been in seclusion for 8 months. You've been rewarded with 1,000 threads spirit net. The reward for 8 months of seclusion finally came. It was actually an emperor-level artifact. Even though it was a low-level emperor artifact, it was far from being comparable to a treasured artifact. The 1,000 threads spirit net was not an offensive type emperor artifact, nor was it a defensive type. Instead, it was a binding and sealing type emperor artifact. With the emperor-level artifact in hand, Chuzan's confidence increased. Even if a 7th-level Unity Realm expert attacked, relying on the minor 5 elements array formation and the 1,000 threads spirit net was enough to make the other party suffer a serious setback. Although the consumption of using an emperor artifact was extremely large, Chuzan had cultivated the emperor-level scripture, and his spiritual will had already surpassed the Void Realm, and was comparable to a 1st or 2nd-level Unity Realm martial artist. Activating the 1,000 threads spirit net once would not be a big problem for him. As long as he managed to trap his enemy inside the 1,000 threads spirit net, unless the other party also had an emperor artifact, they would not be able to escape. Given enough time to recover his spiritual power and will, killing the enemy would naturally not be a problem. Another few days passed uneventfully. On this night, two figures that were practically completely merged into the darkness silently entered the Chu family's territory. A man and a woman had arrived, and their cultivations were both at the second level of the Void Realm, and they were both elder-level experts of the cult. The woman's figure was enchanting, and her face looked rather unusual. Zhu Yan and Zhu Chang had received orders to put on the illusion equipment they had spent a great price to obtain, and to conceal themselves in the Chu family's territory. Soon, they arrived not far from Chu Zan's small courtyard. Is the son of Chu Chuluo living there? Yes. Zhu Yan looked at the small courtyard and suddenly had a perverted thought. Chapter 16. Something is wrong with the Chu family. Zhu Chang noticed that Zhu Yan's expression had gradually contorted, and that her eyes were filled with evil and perverted thoughts. His heart trembled. This woman, what bad thing is she up to again? He hurriedly sent over a voice transmission. Don't worry about Chu Chuluo's son. Focus on the mission at hand. No, I have an idea now. Zhu Yan's eyes grew brighter and brighter, and the corners of her mouth curled up. Her smile turned more and more sinister. What do you think will happen if I give birth to a grandson for Chu Chuluo and a great-grandson for that old ghost Chu Tianming? Even thinking about it excites me to no end. Zhu Chang's eyes widened as he sucked in a breath of cold air. FCK, this woman was too King evil. Zhu Yan's smile became more and more perverted. If it really turns out this way, will the Chu family kill me? Or will they kill Chu Chuluo's son and Chu Chuluo's grandson? What will happen if Chu Chuluo returns one day? Zhu Chang shivered. When he imagined that scene, he broke out into a cold sweat. If this matter was really successful, the Chu family would lose all face. What would Chu Chuluo do? What would Chu Tianming think? FCK, he did not know why, but he was actually looking forward to it. The mission at hand is more important. Let's not complicate matters, shall we? Zhu Chang was indeed looking forward to it, but in order to avoid creating more problems, he tried to persuade her. You don't understand. Since we're already here, we should take advantage of Chu Chuluo's son's presence. If we're exposed, at least we'll have a hostage. Zhu Yan walked toward the small courtyard step by step. Will Black Moon Tower sell information regarding our actions and whereabouts to the Chu family? With a hostage in hand, it seemed that they would be able to escape unscathed. Zhu Chang followed behind her and asked worriedly. HMPH, how could those black-hearted people from Black Moon Tower sell our whereabouts to the Chu family so easily? Zhu Yan sneered and said, only when the Chu family has suffered heavy losses can intelligence on us be sold for a higher price. Zhu Chang thought about it and agreed. Were it not for Black Moon Tower secretly providing some intelligence support to them, the cult in Chu County would have long been eradicated. Black Moon Tower was truly black-hearted. For the sake of maximizing their own benefits, they secretly stirred up and encouraged trouble. However, Black Moon Tower was powerful, and even the evil imperial court was wary of them. Chu Zan felt very helpless. More cult members who were courting death had come. If you wanted to create trouble, could you not just go around me? Why did you have to target me? The ones who had infiltrated the territory this time were actually two Void Realm experts, who were senior leaders at the level of elders in the cult. The precious clothes they wore could actually completely merge their figures into the darkness, almost as if they were hiding in the void. Even the spiritual will of a Void Realm martial artist would not be able to detect them easily. Such precious clothes would have no doubt been purchased from Black Moon Tower. The heretic cult had paid a huge price in order to secure the success of this operation. They had even dispatched two Void Realm elders. Zhu Yan and Zhu Chang entered the courtyard without a hitch and, from a glance, they saw Chu Zan sitting on the reclining chair in the courtyard. He's so handsome, as expected of Chu Chuluo's son. Zhu Yan's eyes lit up and her smile became even brighter. Huh, Chu Zan frowned. What kind of expression did this bewitching, but multicolored ugly freak have? Did she train evil techniques to the point of foolishness? Little boy, come with me. I'll take good care of you. I'll definitely give birth to a big, healthy boy for you. Zhu Yan's smile gradually turned perverted. She raised her hand and tried to grab Chu Zan. What the FCK? Chu Zan was so disgusted that goosebumps appeared all over his body. The old witch had to die. He originally wanted to capture her and interrogate her. He wanted to plant a soul seed seal on her so that she could go back and kill the heretic cult's experts. However, the moment Zhu Yan opened her mouth, he was overcome with utter disgust. Go to hell, old witch. He raised his hand and pointed his finger at her. A bolt of lightning shot out from his finger. Thunderbolt finger. Zhu Yan's perverted smile froze on her face. Not good. The spiritual power in her body surged, and she was about to resist his attack. However, in his disgust and anger, Chuzan attacked with full force, so how could she resist? Kai! The lightning directly poked a hole in her face. Disgusting. Chuzan's finger quickly pointed, and bolts of lightning shot out each time. Pooh, pooh, pooh. Lightning flashed all over Zhu Yan's body, and black smoke filled the air. The corpse that had not even fallen down was instantly turned into a sieve by his attacks. Zhu Chang, who was standing to the side, felt a chill rush to his head. His entire body trembled, and cold sweat dripped down his back. This was too terrifying. How old was he? He was even more terrifying than Chu Chuluo back then. Flee. He had to flee. Zhu Chang cursed Zhu Yan to death in his heart. Why did she have to have this kind of perverted idea? Now, his mission was in jeopardy, and his partner's body had been turned into a sieve. His body moved, and he retreated rapidly. Boom. For some reason, despite retreating rapidly, there was an unusual atmosphere in the surroundings, and he had completely lost his sense of direction. Not far ahead, he could clearly see the courtyard wall. Nevertheless, despite how hard he rushed forward, he could not get close to it. Gulp. Zhu Chang swallowed a mouthful of saliva, and his heart sank. Array formation. There was a truth realm expert in the Chu family. How could it be? Could it be that Chu Chuluo had returned? When he thought of the person who had suppressed the Qin kingdom by himself, the most talented man in the history of the Chu family, or even the history of the Qin kingdom, Zhu Chang's heart sank. It was rumored that Chu Chuluo and his wife had gone missing while exploring a mystic realm. Could it be that they had obtained a great opportunity and had broken through to the truth realm? Otherwise, how could the Chu family possess an array formation? Formations were very few and far between in the southern region. If Chu Chuluo had not broken through to the truth realm, then the Chu family must have paid a huge price to buy a formation-setting artifact from Black Moon Tower. No matter what the situation was, Zhu Chang knew that he was going to die. Since that was the case, then he had to take a gamble. A fierce look flashed across Zhu Chang's face. He was about to release the demonic smoke that he had prepared for this trip when, suddenly, a large hand grabbed him. There was no way for him to resist. He was directly captured and sealed, unable to move. Chuzan sat on the chair and looked down at Zhu Chang, who was lying on the ground. Zhu Chang noticed that Zhu Yan's corpse, which had been turned into a sieve, was currently being devoured by a strange-looking small tree. After a short while, Zhu Yan's corpse disappeared. He was terrified. That small tree seemed to be looking at him now, eager to devour him. Something was wrong with the Chu family. What kind of strange tree was that? Why was Chu Chuluo's son so strong? Could it be that the Chu family had been hiding their strength and were plotting something big? You guys have come to disturb me time and time again. Your cult is really courting death. Chuzan said coldly. He did not speak any further. A small seal appeared in his hand, and he directly used the soul seed seal to plant the soul seed seal on Zhu Chang. Zhu Chang was shocked to find that he no longer felt any enmity towards Chuzan. He could not think of any thoughts of resisting or attacking him. He clearly had all sorts of enmity toward Chuzan in his heart. He had even wanted to kill him just a moment ago. What was going on? Zhu Chang was terrified. His thoughts were normal and his consciousness was clear. However, he did not and could not drum up any enmity or any desire to resist toward Chuzan. Even if the other party attacked him in order to kill, he would not resist. In fact, he would even obediently stretch out his neck. This was the first time Chu Xian had used the soul seed seal, and he was filled with anticipation for the results. Through the soul seed seal, he could sense Zhu Chang's current state. This meant that he could sense the death of the person who had been planted with the soul seed seal, and he would also know how he died. Chuzan felt that he could use the soul seed seal as a medium to send a wisp of his spiritual will over. However, he did not know if he would violate the rules of seclusion by sending a wisp of his spiritual will out with Zhu Chang when he left the small courtyard. Chapter 17. Zhu Chang has gone crazy. Chuzan only thought about it briefly. He would not take the risk to send over a wisp of his spiritual will and leave with Zhu Chang. If his actions broke the rules of seclusion, his seclusion record would be reset. After staying in the courtyard for such a long time, he would then have to start from the beginning again. After planting the soul seed seal on Zhu Chang, Chuzan inquired about his purpose in coming here. In order to inflict losses to the Chu family, the cult had to pay a higher price every time they took action. This time, they actually brought along a wisp of demonic smoke. Demonic smoke was different from poisonous smoke and toxic fire. Once it was released, the contaminated area would be extremely difficult to restore. The price one would need to pay to purchase it was more than 10 times that of poisonous smoke and toxic fire. Moreover, once people below the profound realm inhaled the demonic smoke, their consciousness would become chaotic and they would fall into madness. If the demonic smoke was really released in the Chu family's territory, the servants would definitely suffer heavy casualties. One had to know that the servants in the Chu family's territory were all handpicked and had a certain amount of talent in various fields. Moreover, their family backgrounds were clean and they were relatively loyal to the family. They were truly assets worth nurturing. If the casualties among them were serious, it would definitely be a great loss to the family. The demonic smoke was refined from the corpses of the demon race. It had a very strong contaminating power. Even evil cultivators did not dare to easily come into contact with the demonic smoke before they broke through to the spirit realm. The demon race had existed for a very long time in the southern region. In some ancient battlefields, there would be a small number of demon corpses left behind. Usually, only evil cultivators would collect the demon corpses. The cult was really acting ruthlessly this time. Chu Zan looked at Zhu Chang and directly forced him to act according to his own will. He ordered Zhu Chang to return to the cult's base, release the poisonous smoke, and conduct a sneak attack on the experts of the cult. He tasked Zhu Chang with killing as many as he could, and never revealing anything about the Chu family. After giving him the order, he let Zhu Chang leave. Zhu Chang was on the verge of collapse. His consciousness and thoughts were clear. The only thing he could not do was resist the will of his controller, which was hidden in the darkness. He felt terrified in his heart, but the expression on his face did not show it at all. Everything looked normal, and there was no sign that he was being controlled. It was over. Zhu Chang knew that he was going to die. The Chu family was too terrifying. The cult's Chu County secret headquarters. This was their third headquarters. They would change locations every once in a while. Besides avoiding the Chu family's detection, they also wanted to avoid Black Moon Tower. If they stayed in one place for too long, it would be easy for Black Moon Tower to find them. They might even sell information about their secret base to the Chu family at a high price. In order to prevent such a situation from happening, the headquarters would change locations every once in a while. Only the leader, vice leader, and a few elders knew the location of the headquarters. They could be trusted. It was almost guaranteed that Black Moon Tower could not spy on them. In the cave, the cult's vice sect leader for the Qin Kingdom, Wang Tu, and the cult's protector for the Purple Moon Kingdom sat at the head of the table. The Chu County leader and many elders sat at the table as well. They were all waiting for the news of Zhu Chang and Zhu Yan. Chu Qing had been heavily injured and a third-level Void Realm Chu elder had fallen. They had finally enraged Chu Tianming, forcing him to leave the family territory and make a move personally. The cult took decisive action and once again aimed to take revenge on the Chu family's territory. It was all thanks to the Chu clan that the cult had suffered heavy losses recently. A branch of the cult in the Purple Moon Kingdom had even been directly annihilated. The Qin Kingdom was in a situation where the four families ruled together and, under most circumstances, they were each in charge of their own territories. However, the Purple Moon Kingdom was not like this. The Violet Moon Kingdom's royal family was extremely powerful and firmly controlled the entire kingdom, so, at the first possible moment, they gathered a portion of their strength and struck out with lightning speed to annihilate a branch of the cult. The fourth-level Void Realm branch leader and numerous elders were all annihilated. It was precisely because of this that the Purple Moon Kingdom's cult protector brought along a wisp of demonic smoke in order to take revenge on the Chu family. Brother Wang Tu, why don't we join forces to kill that old ghost Chu Tianming? The Purple Moon Kingdom's cult protector asked darkly. Wang Tu could not be bothered with him and did not reply. If the cult had the ability to kill Chu Tianming, would they still be hiding here and there? Chu Tianming was the patriarch of one of the three aristocratic families of the Qin Kingdom. He was a bona fide half-step Unity Realm cultivator and was carrying a treasured artifact with him. Unless a powerful warrior at the Unity Realm made a move, who could kill him? In the Qin Kingdom, there was only one warrior at the first level of the Unity Realm. If one wanted to kill Chu Tianming, they would need to enlist the aid of an elite warrior from the evil Imperial Court. However, the evil Imperial Court was not without its own enemies either. An elite warrior at the Unity Realm could not leave easily, especially when the evil king was in closed-door cultivation. In the end, the Qin Kingdom was still a little remote and barren. The evil Imperial Court would not pay much attention to it. Had it not been so barren, the Qin kingdom would not be so weak. Seeing that Wang Tu did not speak, the cult protector from the Purple Moon Kingdom did not give up and said, with the combined strength of several people, so what if he has a treasured artifact? There is still a chance to kill him. The branch leader in the Purple Moon Kingdom was his younger brother. Thanks to the Chu family, he had actually fallen. He felt great hatred in his heart. Wang Tu said coldly, how many people would we need? Are they going to perish together with Chu Tianming? Ignoring the cult protector from the Purple Moon Kingdom, Wang Tu said, let's wait another day. If Zhu Chang and Zhu Yan don't return, we will leave this place. He was worried that Black Moon Tower would have already found out about this place. Chu Tianming was currently enraged and might have really spent a large sum to purchase this information. Once Chu Tianming attacked, it was unknown how many of the people present here would survive. He was almost certain that Chu Tianming would try to kill him first. He was definitely the most dangerous person present. Then, Zhu Chang returned. Why are you alone? Wang Tu frowned. Zhu Chang was on the verge of breaking down in the depths of his heart. He was in utter despair, but he could not go against his controller's will. Sect Master, Zhu Yan is hiding in the Chu family's territory. We found an important piece of information, so I came back to report it to the sect leader. What kind of information? Wang Tu did not doubt his words at all. Zhu Chang glanced at the cult protector from the Purple Moon Kingdom. He hesitated for a moment before approaching. Wang Tu glanced at the protector from the Purple Moon Kingdom and thought for a moment. The other party was also a high-level member of the cult and also served the evil imperial court. It would not be a problem for him to hear this information as well. Their common enemy was the Chu family. Since the information pertained to the Chu family, they should no doubt share it with him. Since Zhu Chang was acting so cautiously, it was likely that this piece of intelligence was very important. Even the other elders could not be allowed to hear it. Otherwise, it might increase the chances of it being leaked. Sect leader, the Chu family has been. Zhu Chang approached Wang Tu and sent him a voice transmission, while acting as if he was taking out something. Boom! Suddenly, a violent gray light erupted. Zhu Chang made his move. The moment he made his move, he struck with full force. Wang Tu was caught off guard. Half of his body was shattered, and his spiritual will was shaken. He was on the verge of death. This sudden change stunned everyone present. Boom! After the successful attack, Zhu Chang's second strike struck the cult protector from the Purple Moon Kingdom. PFF'd. The protector of the Purple Moon Kingdom could not dodge in time and was instantly heavily injured, but he did not die immediately. Zhu Chang, what are you doing? Wang Tu's spiritual will had not yet dispersed, and he let out an angry roar. All of you should die. Zhu Chang released the demonic smoke. The demonic smoke billowed in the cave, and he roared, all of you should die. I am the sect leader of the cult, and I will be immortalized eternally. I am the only one qualified to be the sect leader of the cult in the Qin Kingdom. He attacked crazily. After being stunned for a moment, the others reacted. Zhu Chang has gone mad. Kill him quickly, he has gone mad. Was he affected by the demonic smoke? The other cult elders attacked one after another. However, Zhu Chang did not care about his life at all. He only attacked and did not defend. Moreover, he targeted one person and attacked with all his might, completely ignoring the attacks of the others. PFF'd. Another cult elder had fallen. His face was filled with resentment. DMNU, Zhu Chang. I was your lifelong friend. How dare you target me? Chapter 18. Fighting and killing the cult without leaving home. Zhu Chang was on the verge of a mental breakdown. His lifelong friend had fallen at his hands. Thinking back to the past, they had been hunted down and done some evil things together. Yet now, he had died by his hands. He did not want to kill him but, for some reason, killing him brought some unknown joy to his soul. The battle in the cave was intense, and flesh and blood could be seen flying everywhere. Zhu Chang was, after all, rather weak, so how could he withstand the attacks of those around him? I can't die like this. Zhu Chang's broken body suddenly pounced on a person and hugged him tightly. It was another elder that he was on good terms with. Bang! Zhu Chang self-destructed. His spiritual will and spiritual power exploded in unison. The elder that he hugged immediately suffered heavy injuries and was on the verge of death. His heart was on the verge of collapse. DMN it, when we were young, we did say that we were not born on the same day but wanted to die on the same day, but that was just a joke. We did not even make an oath, so why did you take it seriously? That son of AB*TCH Zhu Chang actually dragged me to die together with him. The battle ended soon after. The other cult experts all fell silent. Vice sect leader Wang Tu had fallen, and 2 other elders had also fallen alongside him. The cult protector from the Purple Moon Kingdom had also fallen in the battle. He had been severely injured by Zhu Cheng's sneak attack. The fluctuations from all the fighting had, coincidentally, affected him. Zhu Cheng had suddenly gone crazy. They did not know whether it was related to the demonic smoke. However, for the safety of the cult, the protector from the Purple Moon Kingdom had no choice but to die. Retreat, let's change our location and report to headquarters. I'm afraid that Zhu Yan is also dead. The branch leader of the Chu County cult said. The others did not have any objections and retreated from the cave one after the other. At the same time, they felt extremely aggrieved. The cult had fallen on hard times everywhere and was suffering setbacks wherever they went. It had all started from the Chu family's purge of the cult. Their hatred toward the Chu family had increased several-fold. You have not left seclusion and stayed at home, but still managed to instigate a counterattack on the cult. You have been rewarded with 10 years' worth of cultivation. Chu Zan was pleasantly surprised. The soul seed seal was indeed awesome, and Zhu Cheng was also very powerful. He had actually killed some cult experts. Boom! A wave of power and comprehension surged into his body, and his strength started growing rapidly. After breaking through to the Void Realm, the speed of Chu Zan's cultivation had slowed down. Even if he consumed a spiritual pill to cultivate every day, his cultivation speed still did not increase. The higher one's cultivation level, the slower the increase in one's strength would be. Chu Zan estimated that, by the end of the year, he would probably only be able to advance to the 8th or 9th level of the Void Realm. However, his cultivation speed would probably scare people to death if news of it were to spread out. Despite this, Chu Zan was not satisfied. Currently, the battle between the Chu family and the cult was becoming more and more intense, and the cult had failed several times and suffered heavy losses. It seemed like it would only be a matter of time before they asked the elite warriors of the evil imperial court to make a move. Therefore, he could not even delay one additional day in striving to raise his cultivation level to the Emperor realm. The reward of 10 years' worth of cultivation was based on 10 years of cultivation using the Great Luo Emperor scripture, rather than 10 years' worth of cultivation based on Chu Zan consuming spiritual pills. Even so, Chu Zan's strength finally surpassed the Void Realm and reached the first level of the Unity Realm. After breaking through to the Unity Realm, his spiritual will and spiritual power would be able to merge with the Void in reality, making a qualitative leap. I should be the #1 expert of the Qin Kingdom now, right? Chu Zan felt slightly more confident in his heart. He was somewhat looking forward to the heretic cult sending people once again to ambush him. The effect of the soul seed seal was unexpectedly great. If he could control a few Void Realm heretic cult elders, it would be almost enough to annihilate the heretic cult's forces in Chu County. In the capital of Chu County, Chu Tianming followed Chu Yun and 2 other elders of the Chu family into a building with a black moon engraved on the door plaque. A middle-aged man with a smile on his face quickly walked up to him. Patriarch Chu, it's been a long time. Chu Tianming's expression did not look too good. Chu Qing had been surrounded and injured by the heretic cult's experts previously. Had he not been here for the information sold by Black Moon Tower, he would have torn this person's head off. This was not the first time Black Moon Tower had done such a thing. They sold information, accepted assassination missions, sold treasures, and so on. The scope of Black Moon Tower's business was very wide. Sometimes, in order to increase their profit margins, it was not uncommon for them to secretly act to stir up trouble. Black Moon Tower's black-hearted ways were famous throughout the entire southern region. The prices they charged were not standardized either. Instead, the prices were decided based on the location and situation. For example, the price for assassinating an expert at the peak of the Void Realm was not considered too expensive in a strong country. However, in the Qin Kingdom, the asking price was so high that one could only feel despair. If not for that, the cult would have long commissioned Black Moon Tower to assassinate the patriarch of the Chu family. Of course, in order to avoid encountering such a premise, and because it was indeed necessary, the Chu family had always been a major client of Black Moon Tower. Unless the heretic cult offered a ridiculously high price, Black Moon Tower would not accept the mission of assassinating a major client like themselves. Tower Lord Wan, you sent me a message saying that there is important information for the Chu family. I won't beat around the bush. Just be direct with me. How much is the price? And is the information verified? Entering Black Moon Tower, they arrived at the VIP room. Patriarch Chu, the information of our Black Moon Tower has always been trustworthy. If the information turns out to be untrue, Black Moon Tower can reimburse you 3 times the price of the information. This is to ensure fairness and transparency. Wan Chong was all smiles. The cult had actually brought the demonic smoke with them and infiltrated the Chu family to cause destruction. Such an important piece of information would definitely be sold for a good price. Looking at the time, the cult would start to take action around now, right? Even if Chu Tianming got his hands on the information, he might not be able to stop the tragedy from happening. Once the cult succeeded, the Chu family's territory would be filled with the demonic smoke. If they wanted to remove the contamination of the demonic smoke, they would definitely need to look for him again to purchase treasures that could remove the effects of the demonic smoke. Wan Chong had already prepared such a treasure to remove the effects of the demonic smoke. He was just waiting for the right opportunity to rip off Chu Tianming, this big fat sheep of a customer. Give me a quote. Chu Tianming did not dare to underestimate the importance of this information to the Chu family. If the information had not been crucially important, Wan Chong would not have come to him personally. Black Moon Tower was black-hearted, but their reputation was worth its weight in gold. 1 million crystals. Why don't you just rob me instead? Chu Tianming said angrily. It's not like that at all. Wan Chong said seriously, Brother Chu, this is important information regarding the safety of your Chu family. If it was not worth this price, why would I quote this price to you? Besides, if the information is false, not only will Black Moon Tower refund you, we will also compensate you 3-fold. Chu Tianming became serious. Deal. He took out a storage bag, put in 1 million crystals, and threw it over to Wan Chong. Tell me the information. Wan Chong was very satisfied. The Chu family was such a generous customer. For the sake of sustainable income, as long as they did not receive a high price from the cult or their other enemies, they would not let the Chu family disappear. Any customer who could create a sustainable stream of income for Black Moon Tower was a good customer. According to our information, 2 elders of the cult have sneaked into the Chu family's territory carrying demonic smoke, and they are preparing to unleash it on the population. Wan Chong said seriously. That's it. Chu Tianming was furious. What kind of important information was this? What did they take the Chu family's territory for? A sieve that anyone could enter and leave as they wished. Of course, it's more than that. Wan Chong had expected such a reaction, and he narrowed his eyes as he said, I naturally know that the Chu family's territory is heavily guarded. Under normal circumstances, it's naturally impossible for them to sneak in. This time, the cult has obtained 2 void-level treasured clothes, and those below the 3rd level of the void realm will be unable to sense there. Even those at the peak of the void realm are unable to sense their presence beyond a certain range. The Chu family's ancestral residence is naturally safe, but the remaining large estate. Chu Tianming's expression turned grim. Chapter 19. Wrong information. The expressions of the other 2 elders of the Chu family changed drastically. One of them left immediately without waiting for instructions from Chu Tianming. He sent a message while rushing back to the Chu family. Chu Tianming cupped his hands and said, Goodbye. Brother Chu, don't worry too much even if you can't stop them in time. Our Black Moon Tower has countless treasures, and we can always help you recoup your losses. Wan Chong said with a smile as he sent Chu Tianming off. This must be Chu Yun. As expected of the current genius of the Chu family. In a short period of time, she has already broken through to the 2nd level of the profound realm. As he said this, he took out a bracelet. Come over, dear niece. This is a gift for a major customer like the Chu family. You can keep it. That bracelet was a low-grade spirit artifact. It was a mass-produced product of Black Moon Tower, and it was specially used as gifts for major customers. Its quality was naturally rather ordinary. Although it was a low-grade spirit artifact, its true power was a grade higher than ordinary low-grade spirit artifacts. Chu Yun did not like it, but she still reached out to take it. Since she did not need it, she could give it to one of the servants. The Chu family had many such low-grade spirit artifacts of similar grade. They were all gifts given to the Chu family after completing transactions with Black Moon Tower. Chu Tianming's face was dark and baleful the entire time. The void-level treasured clothes the cultists were using had definitely been sold to them by Black Moon Tower. Unfortunately, the Chu family was not strong enough to make an enemy of Black Moon Tower. Otherwise, they would have killed this B*****. They were actually pandering to both sides. Brother Chu, I'll be awaiting your next visit. Wan Chong was in a good mood. Chu Tianming snorted and quickly returned to the ancestral residence of the Chu family. He naturally knew what Wan Chong meant. If he rushed back now, it would definitely be too late. This B****, he had timed it too precisely. He would sell the information and, later, also sell them treasures that could dispel the demonic smoke. If he waited until he received news that the Chu family's territory had been contaminated by the demonic smoke, he would not have been able to sell information, and would thus lose out on a portion of the potential profits. This black-hearted Wan Chong. Chu Tianming cursed in his heart. Chu Zan was puzzled. Was something big about to happen in the Chu family's territory? All of a sudden, the defenses of the Chu family's territory had been beefed up again. More than 10 Void Realm elders were dispatched to the borders of the territory to patrol. Even the head butler personally held a detection-type spirit artifact in his hand and began to patrol the entire territory. Could it be that the evil imperial court had sent over an expert? Chu Zan immediately felt pressured. Even if the evil imperial court sent someone this time, that person would likely only be at the Unity Realm, so he was not afraid at all. However, once the battle actually started, would he not be exposed? Moreover, if the evil imperial court's expert was defeated, there would soon be even more powerful experts coming over to attack. If that was really the case, how would he be able to safely stay in seclusion? The servant also realized what was happening, so Chu Zan could only raise his level of vigilance. Chu Yun had returned. 13th brother, come back to the ancestral residence with me. I'll plead on your behalf to grandfather. The first thing Chu Yun did was to ask Chu Zan to return to the ancestral residence. I'm fine here and living comfortably. I'm not going back. Chu Zan refused. He was not going back to see Chu Tianming's ugly mug. He would just stay in the courtyard and slowly became stronger, not taking a single step out. The ancestral grounds aren't safe. Chu Yun said anxiously. How can the ancestral grounds not be safe? You're worrying too much. In the entire Chu family, there was no place safer than here. The cult is taking action. It's really dangerous. When Chu Yun informed him about the information obtained from Black Moon Tower, Chu Zan's expression immediately turned strange. Calculating the time, if he had not killed the 2 cultists, by the time Chu Tianming obtained the information, the Chu family territory would already be filled with demonic smoke. Black Moon Tower was truly black-hearted. They had sold soon-to-be useless information to them, and would then sell the necessary treasures to dispel the demonic smoke. No wonder the Chu family was so nervous. Even the head butler was personally acting. Even the head butler has come out. The cult won't be able to infiltrate our territory. Chu Zan put on a look of great confidence in the Chu family's strength. Then I'll stay here with 13th brother. When Chu Yun saw him acting like this, she changed her tune and decided to stay here with him. Chu Zan knew that she was still worried about him. As long as she stayed here, the head butler would definitely prioritize protecting this place. His heart was filled with warmth. Chu Yun had gone out to train for a few months and had just returned. At this time, she had already broken through to the 2nd level of the profound realm. It could be seen that she possessed superior innate talent, and that she was one of the best among the younger generation of the Chu family. No wonder Chu Tianming doted on this girl so much. 13th brother, is this the cat you raised? Chu Yun picked up the silly and adorable-looking heavenly spirit cat and asked happily. Right, I was bored and raised it to relieve my boredom. The heavenly spirit cat's strength had progressed rapidly, and was now comparable to a 3rd-level Void Realm martial artist. The Chu family was relaxed on the outside, but tense on the inside. They were trying to bait the 2 elders and get them to reveal themselves so that they could rid themselves of this threat to the family. If they did not kill them today, they would have to worry about them tomorrow, that the other party would sneak in and unleash the demonic smoke. However, half a month passed. Everything remained peaceful. Even the cult experts of Chu County had gone somewhat silent and, when they encountered the experts of the Chu family, they fled at the first possible moment, and they were no longer as fierce and stubborn as before. Chu Yun also stayed in the small courtyard for half a month. Chu Zan secretly placed some cultivation methods and secret techniques around the house. He lied that they had been left behind by his father, Chu Chuluo. Chu Yun spent most of her time flipping through these cultivation methods and secret techniques. In just half a month's time, she was already on the verge of breaking through to the 3rd level of the Profound Realm. Chu Zan also included the Profound Realm and Spirit Realm chapters of the Great Luo Emperor scripture that he had comprehended. Chu Yun was overjoyed when she discovered them and did her best to cultivate the Great Luo Emperor scripture. Chu Chuluo could be considered a legend of the Chu family. Chu Yun did not doubt that these were left behind by him. After a few more days, Chu Yun was about to break through to the third level of the profound realm. As such, she could only return to the ancestral residence. Chu Tianming was pleasantly surprised. He praised Chu Yun and scolded Chu Zan a few more times. He had embarrassed the Chu family and his precious third son, Chu Chuluo. The cult had not made any movements. It was impossible for them to be on guard the entire time. Therefore, after some investigation, they found traces of the demonic smoke at a location where a big battle had taken place. It seemed that the cult was experiencing an internal conflict. Chu Tianming was stunned when he heard the news. Would the cult also have internal conflict? It had always been the case of the strong rising to the top. The loser would fall, and the winner would rise. There had never been such an internal conflict recorded in the history of the cult before. Since the demonic smoke had already been released elsewhere, it was naturally impossible for it to appear in the Chu family's territory to wreak havoc. This meant that the Black Moon Tower's information this time was wrong. Chu Tianming was overjoyed and immediately set off for Black Moon Tower. Brother Wan, this is the first time Black Moon Tower's information has failed me. Chu Tianming sat in the VIP room with a wide smile on his face. Black-hearted man, you cheated me of 1 million crystals. Now, not only are you going to spit it all out, you are also going to compensate me threefold. Let me see if you are still full of yourself. Wan Chang's face was dark. How could the intelligence be wrong? What were those heretic B***stards doing? Black Moon Tower's intelligence was wrong, so they had to compensate the buyer threefold. As the Tower Lord, this meant that he was not capable enough, and also meant that he had failed in his duties. If it was taken seriously, he would be reprimanded by the higher-ups, and perhaps even part of his benefits would be deducted. The intelligence can't be wrong. It's just that the cult was waylaid by an accident along the way. Brother Wan, Black Moon Tower has always valued its reputation. Surely you must be aware of the consequences of providing false intelligence. Chu Tianming picked up his tea and sipped it slowly. Wan Chong did not want to compensate him. Once such a transaction was recorded, it would be a stain on his record in managing Black Moon Tower branch in Chu County's capital. It would become evidence of his lack of ability. In the future, when he was promoted to a higher position, it would be a weak point that could be targeted by his competitors. However, the reputation of Black Moon Tower could not be allowed to suffer either. This was the root problem. If his actions damaged the reputation of Black Moon Tower, he would be punished even more severely. Chapter 20. First Vice Sect Leader Zhang Kui. In order to ensure that the reputation of Black Moon Tower was not damaged, Black Moon Tower had even killed people to silence them. However, Wan Chang's strength and status were insufficient to pull this off. If the other party had been a small figure at the mortal realm, it would have been feasible for him to do so, but Chu Tianming was the patriarch of the Chu family. Disregarding his identity, just his strength alone was not something Wan Chong could deal with. If he asked the experts of Black Moon Tower for help, would it not be equivalent to telling the higher-ups of Black Moon Tower that what he did caused the reputation of Black Moon Tower to be damaged, which resulted in him asking their experts to kill Chu Tianming to silence him? He could neither compensate them nor allow the reputation of Black Moon Tower to be damaged. As such, he could only offer to exchange information. Brother Chu, there is an important piece of information regarding the cult. 1 million spirit crystals isn't too expensive, right? Chu Tianming replied with a smile, 1 million isn't a small amount. Is the information on the cult worth 1 million? Wan Chong cursed in his heart. They were actually extorting money from him. How about this? I'll give you a free service. Once the evil imperial court makes any unusual movements toward the Qin kingdom or the Chu family, I'll inform Brother Chu immediately. I won't delay the information. How about it? He was in the wrong. Even if Chu Tianming demanded a lot, Wan Chong could only endure it. Chu Tianming cursed in his heart. Wan Chong was A***starred. If he was not in the wrong this time, would he even tell him if the evil imperial court made any strange movements? At that point, when the Chu family did not have time or opportunity to ask for help, in order not to suffer total destruction at the hands of the evil imperial court, would they not have to pay a huge price to request Black Moon Tower to protect them? What a black-hearted guy. Alright, let's do it this way for the sake of our long-term relationship with Brother Wan. It was the Chu family's own fault for not being strong enough. Every year, they would pay a certain amount to request that Black Moon Tower keep an eye on the evil imperial court's movements. If Wan Chong, this black-hearted person, really delayed the news, the Chu family would definitely face a great disaster. Of course, Black Moon Tower's intelligence-gathering capabilities were not omnipotent. The Chu family had always been on guard against the possibility of being totally wiped out. The direct descendants were not all gathered in the family's territory, but had spread themselves out. It was all for the sake of preserving the inheritance of the Chu family in case they suffered a destructive blow. The first vice-sect leader and 2 protectors of the heretic cult have already arrived at Chu County. Wan Chong said with a smile, "Brother Chu, this piece of information is worth 1,000,000 crystals, right?" Chu Tianming's expression froze. The first vice-sect leader of the heretic cult in the Qin kingdom was the second strongest person in the heretic cult. His strength was at the peak of the 8th level of the Void Realm, and he was about to break through to the 9th level of the Void Realm. Not to mention that those who could become protectors were all at the 7th level of the Void Realm. Where are his exact whereabouts? If the first vice-sect leader of the heretic cult acted wantonly in Chu County, it would surely result in great losses for the Chu family. That is another piece of information altogether. Wan Chong chuckled and said. Chu Tianming sneered. Just this piece of information about him coming to Chu County isn't worth 1,000,000 crystals. Although the Black Moon Tower's information is slightly faster, I can guarantee that, in less than a day, my Chu family will be able to receive news of the other party coming to Chu County. After all, Chu County was under the control of the Chu family. After operating for so many years, their intelligence-gathering ability was naturally not bad. Alright, this is their current hiding place. Wan Chong took out a piece of paper and placed it on the table. Chu Tianming picked it up and took a look. Thank you, Brother Wan. He immediately left Black Moon Tower. He was going to kill the first vice-sect leader and the 2 protectors. In a small farmhouse less than 300 li away from the Chu family's territory, the first vice-sect leader of the cult in the Qin kingdom, Zhang Kui, sat on a chair with a cold expression on his face. Dong Qian, the cult's branch master in Chu County, lowered his head and said, Vice-sect leader, we don't know the reason behind why Zhu Cheng suddenly went crazy. We suspect that it has something to do with the protector of the Purple Moon Kingdom, but we don't understand the intention behind his actions. What about Zhu Yan? Is she dead or alive? If she's dead, who killed her? Zhang Kui asked with a grim expression. I don't know. Dong Qian had a helpless expression on his face. Ever since the Chu family's sudden attack, the heretic cult had suffered calamity after calamity, and many elders had fallen in battle. Even if they cultivated evil techniques and had the support of the evil imperial court, the number of Void Realm experts were limited. This time, the heretic cult could have been said to have suffered great losses. In the entire Chu County branch, there were only 4 Void Realm experts left. This included himself, the branch leader, who was at the 3rd level of the Void Realm. The Chu family was detestable. Zhang Kui's expression was extremely unsightly. Other than that particular time 1,000 years ago, the heretic cult had never suffered such a great loss. The Chu County branch was almost half crippled. Not to mention that, throughout the entire Qin kingdom, the heretic cult had lost 1/5 of its original strength. How did the Chu family find out where the evil cult was hiding? They had obtained a secret technique from a mystic realm, which could hide the aura of their evil cultivation methods. This helped the heretic cult members hide in plain sight. After many years of planning, their spies had infiltrated the Qin, Purple Moon Kingdom, and Great Zhou kingdoms. They just needed to develop and grow their strength and influence gradually. In the end, they would have become influential characters in those countries. They would then wait for an opportunity to suddenly rebel and wrest control of the 3 countries under the banner of the evil imperial court. As long as they took control of the 3 countries, the other surrounding strong countries would realize that they had already been brought under the banner of the evil imperial court. With the attitude of those strong countries, they would definitely not go to war with the evil imperial court over this barren region. Once the plan was successful, they would definitely be able to become high-ranking officials of the evil imperial court and receive the attention of the evil king. They would also become important figures in the court. Thanks to their great contributions in securing the 3 countries, they would no doubt receive bountiful rewards. At that time, they could move to the evil imperial court and leave this barren region. When they arrived at the evil imperial court, not only would they be rewarded, but the cultivation resources and methods there meant that they would inevitably reach the Unity realm. However, who would have thought that their painstaking plans, which had been laid out over the course of many years, would be unraveled just like that by the Chu family? The heretic cult suffered heavy losses in an instant, and the spies that had been lurking in the 3 countries had almost been completely wiped out. How hateful. I wonder, could it be related to the information provided by Black Moon Tower? Dong Qian said in a low voice. Black Moon Tower is not omnipotent. Moreover, given the style of Black Moon Tower, how could they sell such information so easily for the sake of unknown benefits? Zhang Kui's face was gloomy and cold. From his investigation, the Chu family had not bought any important information from Black Moon Tower recently. How could Black Moon Tower sell such important information at a low price? The Chu family's actions could be detected by tracing the movements of their resources in a given period of time. Zhang Kui would have never imagined that the trigger for this entire debacle was just because a pawn of the cult had wanted to take credit and control Chuzan. Get ready. Follow me over to the Chu family's territory tonight. Cult Master, there are many strong experts in the Chu family's territory. What if? Dong Qian had a worried expression on his face as he said those words. Old ghost Chu Tianming has already left the family territory. If I want to charge into the Chu family territory, so what? Since I dare to go, I naturally have the confidence to leave in one piece. Zhang Kui stood up, and the aura on his body exploded forth. Sect leader, you broke through. Dong Qian's face displayed a shocked expression. 9th level Void Realm experts were considered to be the strongest experts in the Qin Kingdom. If Zhang Kui had broken through, then the Qin Kingdom's heretic cult would have 2 9th level Void Realm experts. No matter how strong Chu Tianming was, he still had not broken through to the Unity Realm, so Zhang Kui might be able to contend with him head-on. The only thing that Zhang Kui was lacking was a treasured artifact. Tonight, you'll follow me to challenge the Chu family. Zhang Kui took out a black bead and tossed it over to Dong Qian. This is a spatial escape bead. Dong Qian was pleasantly surprised. The spatial escape bead was sold at a price of 1 million spirit crystals at Black Moon Tower and, just like its name, it was a spirit artifact used to escape. If one encountered a crisis, they could activate the escape bead and instantly escape 100 li away. With the escape bead, even if they were besieged by the elders of the Chu family, as long as they were not killed instantly, they would be able to make their escape. Previously, when they had surrounded Chu Qing, he had seized the opportunity and activated an escape bead. Otherwise, they would have captured or killed him.